Marcy, you know Kelly can't make it because of work. I mean, she was going to make every attempt
Yes,
to, when I spoke to her earlier.
yes, she did let me know. And also, I believe Tony is phoning in
Okay.
if she's not on here yet.
And Andrew's coming on, so we do have a quorum.
Okay,
Well, let's just get, I mean, it's not 2 o'clock yet, but just wait a couple minutes in case Tony can get in on this.
sure.
Hey, Marcy.
Yes,
I just tried calling her.
Everybody else, you have your work day. So it is 14:03 or 2:03 p.m., 3 March 2021. We'll call the meeting to order. Marcy, would you please read the statement?
sure. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on February 28th, 2021, and was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the township budget. Official action may be taken.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please. It may
Sure.
be for the record that, Kelly is unable to make the meeting due to work, please.
Sure. Vice President Orberger,
Here.
Councilmember Chili,
Here.
Councilmember Pittsger,
Here.
Councilmember Weller, Council President Shortway.
Present. Please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
of the
of the United States of
the
America,
Republic, for
and
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to have public comments for current agenda items only, limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone wishing to speak, please state your name and residence. May I have a motion to open the floor to public comments?
Motion to open to the public.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anybody abstaining? Seeing none, hearing none. The floor is now open to the public. Marcy, the floor is yours.
I received no emails and I don't see any hands up, Council President.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. May I have a motion to close the floor to public comments?
Motion to close.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? No one. Floor is now closed. Items for discussion. Would Mayor Burrell please start the discussion? And Mayor, if you need to go out of the rotation, I have no problem with it. If any other council member has any problem, please just advise the mayor. But the floor is essentially yours, Mayor. And how would you want any questions asked after the department head presents it? You want to go during their presentation? What is ever advantageous for you and your department heads?
Let's wait until after each one of the presentations, please, and then let's ask questions.
Okay, council, we okay with that?
That's
I am.
fine.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick because we want to really focus on the department heads. During this budget meeting, we'll be reviewing the proposed budget in some detail, that is from the perspective of each municipal department. But before we do, I want to share with you and those members of the public who have joined us in this meeting, as well as those who will view this meeting via the recording that will be posted on our town's website. I want to just review the overall focus of this budget and the areas within our municipal government where the overwhelming majority of these budgeted tax dollars will be spent. As it relates to the overall focus of this budget, this year's budget has been developed with a focus on achieving 6 key goals. These 6 goals are: number 1, to maintain the level of services that our town is required to provide or has committed to providing, while at the same time looking for areas where we can operate in a more effective and efficient manner. Number 2, to continue our ongoing road improvement program and to replace in an efficient and financially responsible manner town vehicles and equipment that's beyond their useful life. Number 3, to continue to pay down our debt and create a pay-as-you-go system for most capital expenses. When we look in this budget and we'll see debt, we'll see why we need to do that. To continue to make repairs and improvements to township properties so as to avoid even larger improvement costs in the future. Number 5, to move Vernon forward towards continuing to be the type of town that's a good place to live and raise a family, as well as a place where businesses want to locate and prosper. And finally, number 6, to minimize current and future tax burdens on Vernon taxpayers as we deal with the negative economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. As our residents know from dealing with their personal household finances, every year the cost of most things go up. And that same cost increase principle applies to all of the things applies to all of the things related to operating an effective and efficient municipal government. And it is for this reason that we put a lot of planning and effort into keeping any increase in this year's municipal budget to a single-digit %. The municipal staff started with my direction that they look for cost savings in every departmental line item. And I'm pleased to report that in spite of a significant increase in our statutorily required Social Security and pensions payment for retired municipal workers, police, and firemen, and a continued large $3.1 million amount budget as a result of uncollected taxes, this year's municipal budget, as it is proposed, totals slightly over $28 million and is up just 2%. I wanted that single digit, up just 2% of $500,000 from last year's budget. As a way of measuring the financial impact of this proposed municipal budget on our town's taxpayers, the municipal portion of the tax on the average Vernon home, which is assessed at a value of $206,351, will be $90 per year or just $7 per month. And that's just the municipal portion. So where are the majority of these tax dollars going? Just 7 categories account for 76%, almost 80%, 7 categories of the total dollars in this budget. Those 7 categories are the category that covers the cost of our police, radio communications, and animal control needs. At $5 million, this category covers 18% of our total budget. The category that covers our payments into our infrastructure capital improvement fund and payments on our town's debt at $4.8 million, this category covers 17% of the total budget. The category that covers our payments for our employees' medical, unemployment, workers' compensation, and other insurance at $3.3 million, this category covers 12% of the total budget. The category that covers the amount of funds that sound accounting practices require that we add to our budget to cover the dollar amount of taxes that our experience tells us that we are not likely to collect during the current year. Our tax collection rate, by the way, is 96%. And the dollar amount that we are required to include in this year's budget as a reserve for uncollected taxes is $3.1 million, or 11% of the total budget. The category that covers our payments for our road repair and maintenance, our buildings and grounds park maintenance, and our recycling center and fleet management is $2.7 million. This category covers 10% of the total budget. I've just got 2 more. The category that covers our statutory obligations, such as Social Security, retirements, and defined contribution benefits, plus reimbursements for the town that the town is required by law to pay our private lake communities under the Municipal Service Act, better known as the Kelly Bill. That amount is $2.5 million, and this is 8% of the total budget. And finally, the category that covers our contractual SCUMA service payments and our municipal utilities at $2.5 million covers 8% of the total budget. I think that this is a very financially conservative budget, and one really that addresses really our basic needs and not our wants. So with that, we will go to the detail. And thank you, Mr. President, and Council for allowing us to go out of order. Because first we'd like to take our police department, then we'd like to take our DPW, and then our fire prevention. So with that, Chief Young, would you go forward? You are the captain.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start count number 1-25-240-01. That's the police department regular salaries. There was a slight increase from last year's budgeted amount. That is due to contractual obligations.
Well, first of all, let me ask, does every council person, because I just told you that was the order we're going to go in, does every council person have that sheet in front of them?
It's sheet number 25. If you guys are looking, it's page 25.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chief.
It's okay. Everybody can hear me okay, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Line item number 2 is police department overtime. We've had a slight decrease from last year's budgeted amount. There's a decrease of $15,000. As the mayor had indicated, our goal is to work within the confines of our budget. We were able to very proudly keep that overtime expenditures last year during COVID to a minimum. We were able to do the best we can with what we had. And so with that $15,000 increase, we reallocated that. The captain will get into that shortly. That's going to be under the O&E to the service contracts. That's why you'll see an increase down in that one. We'll get to that one shortly. Moving right along to longevity, there's a slight increase that is contractual. Administrative line item, slight increase that is contractual. College credits, the police department, that's the same amount as last year. Detective allowance, contractual, same amount as last year. Special officers, we've requested the same amount as last year. Supervisor coverage, that's also contractual. There's a very slight increase with that. Does any council member have a question regarding that first subsection? Okay.
No.
Right into the police department operating expenses, and I'll turn it over to the captain.
It's going to be the same page. We're going to move down to the O&E. The first line item, office supplies. That's going to stay the same. Equipment, again, staying the same. Education conferences and seminars, staying flat, staying the same. Materials and supplies, staying the same. Uniform allowances, staying the same. Uniform replacement, again, staying the same. Tuition reimbursement is staying the same. Miscellaneous, is that the one we're going up? We're asking for a $500 increase. What that line item is earmarked for is for our community services, coffee with a cop, other services where we can go out and community outreach programs. So we have a little bit of extra money so that we can run some of those programs. Again, we're asking for a $500 increase. Doctors and exams, excuse me. That's staying the same. Ammunition and range materials, that's staying the same. O&E technology, that is staying the same. Detective expenses, staying the same. Membership publications and dues, staying the same. Service contracts, you're going to see an increase of 25.12%. As the chief said previously, we are increasing our IT security through our service contracts for better security with our internet and our computer systems. And we offset that by dropping down realizing our savings in overtime and dropping that down into that line item to try to offset some of the funds. And lastly, but not least, is Junior Police Academy. We will be attempting to run that again this year. Hopefully the COVID's, we can get that in. That's also staying the same. Does any council members have any questions on the O&E portion of the police department?
Question. The junior police program, when we were still able to have the meetings and the last few years that you were doing it, you were to the point of being maxed out on the amount of children that were involved. Is there any way to increase that? Is there still I just would think that we would put a little more in there for that because it was such a good program, and it just seemed like you had to turn some away because I don't know how you can increase it. I don't know logistics for it.
Do you mind if I take this really quick? So even though we actually did increase it from the 2019 budget at that $1,000 because we did kind of max out there. So what happens is when the money comes in, when people sign up for it, we actually take that money and we reimburse that budget account. So technically what could happen is, let's say we get in, let's say $2,000. That budget goes from that $2,000 line to the 4,000, so that we still stay within those constraints, if that makes sense. So even
Okay,
though it looks like there's only, yeah.
I just didn't want us to, if, hopefully things improve where they're able to meet and do more. I just don't want to turn anybody away because we didn't budget enough. That's just what I'm looking at.
Great point, John.
Thank you, I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Because it's a very successful program, very successful.
Did anybody else have any other questions on operating expenses? Yeah, I'm gonna move right into radio communications, salary and wages. There's a slight decrease for regular salaries. That is an overall result from the retirement we had early last year. Our overtime budget, we're asking for the same amount as last year. We were able to work and manage within the overtime that we had allotted, so that stayed the same. TAC training officer, that is contractual, that stays the same. Radio communications holiday pay, that is also contractual, that stayed the same. Radio communications operating expenses, office supplies, that stays the same. Materials and supplies stayed the same. And there was a slight decrease in uniform allowance that is specifically due to the retirement also of one of those other full-time dispatchers. Anybody have any questions regarding radio communications? Okay, I'm gonna ask the captain to move right into animal control.
The next sheet, animal control. We'll first go through salaries and wages. There's a decrease of 6.47% on our salaries and wages due to personnel movement and attrition by someone leaving, the senior person leaving animal control, and also by us managing animal control and having a police sergeant doing the overall management of the facility. So that you're going to see a decrease there. Overtime, we're asking for it to stay the same. On-call status, which is for the employees when they are on call, that they receive a stipend. We're asking for that to stay the same. Part-time seasonal and census, which is to conduct a dog census, to find out how many dogs or if people haven't licensed their dogs, that's going to stay the same. That is the presentation for the salary wages portion of animal control. Does anyone have any questions?
No.
I will move right into animal control operations and expenses. Office supplies stays the same. Materials and supplies, we were asking for the same. Advertising stays the same. Uniform allowance. You're going to see a large increase in that. That's due to contractual obligations with the UAW, correct? UAW contract? Mm-hmm. UAW contract. Uniform replacement stays the same. Medical supplies and food, a slight increase as we've just entered into another shared service agreement with Montague Township, which is going to go ahead and have, we're going to see more animals at our facility and to care for them. Dog census rabies stays the same. Memberships and publications stays the same. Spay and neuter, again, a slight increase, a $500 increase. Again, due to bringing on those other shared services into town so that we can further care for the animal and continue our practice of 100% spay and neuter. And lastly, professional services would stay the same. That is the operating of expenses of animal control. Does any council members have any questions?
No.
Okay, I'm going to move right into the our last section, the Office of Emergency Management budget. I'm doing it on behalf of Ken Clark, our OEM coordinator. So OEM salary and wages, regular salaries, that's $10,000. That's a new line item this year, although that was accounted for in other areas within the budget. We actually broke that out into OEM this year to make it a little more understandable of the expenses that are within OEM. As with COVID and some of the burden that OEM has taken on with dealing with this pandemic, we found the need to break this down a little further for a better explanation to the council and to the public, what we're spending and where things are going. Right into operating expenses. OEM equipment, it's $500. OEM materials and supplies, You'll see about $1,000 decrease from last year's requested amount. That's because we broke it out between materials and supplies and equipment. And we also broke it out into uniforms. There's a slight increase for uniforms as well. Obviously, because with the COVID, we're asking for different items for the OEM coordinator and deputy OEMs. Last but most importantly was an addition that we had added on this week. It's the amount of $10,000 for radio repairs and maintenance. That was actually taken out of an account because the fire marshal had overseen that area. We had moved that into the OEM area as the deputy OEM and also the police chief. It just makes it a little more manageable for us with our dispatch center if we have any radio communications issues and there's an emergent need to repair any of our radios. You know, we're on call 24 hours a day. Our dispatch center knows right away. So we're able to make those adjustment and changes. That's why that money was moved from under the fire marshal to us. Do you have any questions on the OEM section?
No.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation. Anybody have any questions in general for our section?
Yeah, Chief, if I may, with the assembly passing the 20 and out bill, lack of a better term, on Monday. And I believe there's 9 officers that could take advantage of that in the next 2 years. I know it's premature, but is there any reason for concern losing police officers, highly trained police officers, and replacing them? Has there been any feedback that guys are talking about leaving, or anything that we should worry about for this present budget or the budgets to come?
I think maybe moving forward, it's going to be something that we really need to take a good look at. I don't think it's an immediate concern for this budget year. Based on the conversations with the guys that are eligible to retire, everybody that I've spoken to plans on staying the full 25 years and not using the 20 and out bill. But obviously that could change as we continue to deal with the pandemic and whatever else throws our way. But for the emergent purposes right now for our budget, I think we're okay.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
We really want to get through this year, council, and hopefully better times are ahead. And we'll address some of those things at that particular point in time. I hope that you see just from this first presentation that we are being very, very practical in everything that we do. We want to get through this year, provide the services, things we can, and we'll look at the future in the future.
I have one question for the chief. Chief, I see under the capital, we just have the vehicles as the enterprise system so far. I know it's relatively new, but does it so far seem like we're on the right path?
You know, John, I think we are. You know, it was a little slow startup. And one of the issues that we had was in connection with the startup, we also hit the COVID pandemic. So, you know, we had assembly plants shutting down. You know, we hit some issues with getting cars in a timely fashion. But right now, based on how things are going, you know, we're on the enterprise dashboard, so we're able to actively monitor the process for all the cars, where they're at, how they're ordering. They seem to be progressing moving forward. So I think we'll have a really good idea next year how the program's going, but so far it seems to be working okay.
That's what matters. Thank you. That's all I asked.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you.
If we could have DPW up next. I don't see him on here. Oh, yes, I do see him.
He's here. Yep.
He called in too. Mercy, I just texted you, like, I didn't want to say the number out loud because I don't know if anyone else can see it.
That's okay.
It's the top one.
Thank you. I knew there were 2. I didn't want to,
Is he on?
yeah. Ed, can you hear us? Let's see if they can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Ed.
All right. Yeah, sorry about this. The laptop's not letting me hook up to this, so let's try it this way. All right. Okay. Let's see here. The road department budget. Okay.
Excuse me, Marcy, can you? Not Marcy. Excuse me, Donnell. Can you direct everybody to that page number and make sure?
Yeah,
they
sure.
got it?
It's page 32.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead.
That's okay. It's all right. First up, we have obviously is the salaries, road department, S&W, control accounts. Basically, what I did, I allotted for 2% across the board for all the salaries. Marcy and I, we talked. Not Marcy, Danelle and I talked a little bit, and Danelle decided to obviously adjust some figures as we go. So right now, for 2021, the regular salaries were 915,000. We were at 800,000 last year, so we had to add some more to that. The overtime last year was about 175,000. It's at 160,000 this year. Hopefully, we're at the end of the snow with all that overtime we had just the last couple of weeks. The seasonal, we dropped down. We went from 2020, 14,000 down to 10,000. We didn't use a lot of the seasonal help because we really wasn't needed at the time. As far as administration, again, we a lot of the 2%. We went from 148 to 153. Is there any questions on that side of it? Do you have anything?
Ed, I guess I have one question.
Sure.
Regarding the regular salaries, the budget for 2020 was 800,000. You were over by 71,000. What was the reason for that?
Well, more than that, it had to be the overtime that we invested. I mean, there was a lot of things that popped up last year. I mean, yeah, Danelle.
Sorry, yeah, I just want to cut in. So historically, what the town had done in the past when we had a shared service agreement with the MUA is that our shared service agreements, you guys can see in the budget, they're kept in a separate area under shared services and grants. What happened historically in the past is that we would take that money and it would move into the road repairs and maintenance regular salaries line. So Vernon Township never fully budgeted for those employees in their own line. What happened was they would put it into the shared service and then they would get the funds in from the MUA and then offset their regular salaries. So when you look at that 2020 year-to-date amount, that 871,794.58, that's the amount that we actually expended after moving money into there. So it does look like it's over that 800,000, but we did put in those additional funds to cover that. So there was no actual, there's no over expenditure on that line, if that makes sense.
So then the actual real increase is what? If you take in consideration the shared services numbers?
So we moved over at least 71,794 into that account.
Okay.
From the shared services number.
That's from the shared services number and it's been
Yes.
brought here. Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question. And from there, it's a 2% increase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay, are we ready to move on?
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, office supplies. I left that the same as 2020. No increase there. The equipment rental, I raised that a little bit. Even though 2020 said 2,000, I kept it the same as 2020. But I knew like 2019 we only had $1,000 in there. I'm planning on renting a couple of things this year. Hopefully not too much of it, but obviously the trench hole digger we have to rent for the message board we're going to be installing. So that's all going to be coming. It's all taken into consideration when I did that. The education, I left that the same as 2020. Let's see, materials and supplies. I left that the same as 2020 also. Same as the meal allotment, that's $2,000, the same as 2020. The uniform allotment, that got lowered a little bit. That's from 25,000 compared to 27,000 2020. Now that's something that we looked at, and it just made more sense to keep it down to 25,000. Computer supplies, we lowered up to 13,000 from 15,000. Let's see, line painting. The line painting, I kept it at 40,000, the same as 2020. The 40,000 allows us to do some more painting of the secondary roads, which are in desperate need. Also gives us a chance to paint the sidelines, not just the yellow lines. We've got a lot of complaints about the white lines, especially like in Canisteer, Mow Road, Berry Drive. So any of the roads that we do pave, though, that's already included. These are the ones that are that have to be redone every year. Like I said, we've gotten quite a few complaints, so hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more as far as the white lines go this year. The safety, we put that at 10,000. Last year was 12,000. Signs, we had to raise that because Scott in the sign department is going through a lot more material with all the signs that we've made up, and as far as the renumbering of the police vehicles, the DPW vehicles, and the stuff is expensive, especially the high-end, high visibility stuff. It's going up tremendously. Let's see, road materials, we left that the same as last year, 70,000. The snow and ice, we left that at 425,000, same thing as last year. The drug testing is also the same. Tools and hardware, we actually lowered that down to 3,000, considering that we've had some other options we can go with that. Let's see here, deer carcasses removal was 1,500, that's the same. CDL physicals, that's also the same as 2020. Debris removal is down to 10,000 from 13,000 in 2020. Obviously, we're working on some things with the pit and stuff that we'll have to discuss later on, but we're working on it. We're getting there. Let's see here, membership, and I think it's, let's see, membership dues, 250, we left that there, it's the same as 2020. And tree removal. Tree removal, we've had to update, actually add quite a bit because we've had a bunch of trees come down and that we just can't take care of. And like I've told Danelle and Chuck in the past, last year we had a bunch of trees that were on township property that people were complaining about were hazards. And unfortunately, where they were at, our guys couldn't handle them because it involves climbing the trees. So we definitely had to a lot more on that end. So basically, that's it for this section. Any questions?
I guess I have one question regarding road material. Year to date,
Yes.
we've spent $21,800 on a round number, and it's at 70,000. The biggest discrepancy there for right now. Have not the bills come in, or what's going on there?
Well, last year, because of COVID, we really didn't get a chance to do a lot of the patching, a lot of the back dragging, coating the roads that really needed it. We were on a skeleton crew for most of the year. And unfortunately, like I said, we didn't get a chance to get a lot of it done, which I'm trying to get a lot of it done this year for us. The roads are in horrendous shape. And that's something that the game plan is to try to do the best we can. So.
No, thanks for that, because I saw this big gap and I'm like, wow, that what we spent versus what we're budgeted is big. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Like I said, we didn't get a chance last year to do what we really wanted to do. So, okay.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see here. Any other questions? That's good for that section. All right. Recycling. Again, the salaries, I went with 2% across the board. As you get in the next one, recycling contracted staff services. That is for our person that does the hydraulics and checks the compactors. That's a professional service that we can't handle. And the machines are getting a little bit older, so we've had a little bit of an issue last year. We had to have a couple more repairs that I was looking at. So we bumped that up to $1,000. As far as the recycling equipment, we left that the same as 2020. That covers like dumpsters, the new dumping containers and so forth. There's probably one or two we're going to have to replace this year because they were the ones that were originally bought way back in, I think, 2001. So I'm planning on probably at least replacing two more of those, and they're not cheap. So let's see, what else we got here? Okay, building and grounds. Salaries, again, it was 2% across the board. Building grounds. Okay, here we go. The equipment rental, we left that the same as 2020, $500. The janitorial, I had to raise by $1,000 this year with the cost of the materials is just going up and up and up. There are some things that we're going to try to do a little more, a little better this year. We're looking into obviously the different co-ops and also Staples to help out. They've done tremendous with their prices. So hopefully we'll be able to save some money on that end. Let's see here. Again, contractual staff, this next one we had to raise 57,000 and 50,000. Now that covers the heating companies that are coming in to help us out with the maintenance. Of course, we already have an agreement with Air Group already, and Danelle can explain that a little bit more too if you need to. Those are the ones that take care of the HVA systems and the heating systems. So we had to bump that up a little more because we've had some issues. We had a couple, say like at the DPW, we had to have a new water heater. We had a water line break in my office wall. So there's some things that we've had to adjust a little bit and raise up a little. This the cleaning service. We raised up to $3,000 up. That's just because of the COVID situation we had last year. We weren't sure how this was going to play out as far as having to have the professionals coming back in again. I know our janitor and our guys are doing the best they can, helping out, maintaining with the police station every Monday and Friday, the municipal building every Tuesday, and our building every Wednesday. But again, this is just something that is unforeseen that we had to have a professional service come in. Let's see here, repairs. Danelle and I have done all this before. We talked about this. We were at 35,000 last year. We kicked it up to 50,000 this year, just because of the uncertainty of what we're looking at down the road. The building's getting older. Our building's getting older. So there are going to be some updates we're going to have. A perfect example, sooner or later, we're going to have another boiler put in at the DPW. And we're going to have to look at the boilers at the missile building sooner or later also. Again, this is just something to get us started on some things so we don't have the failures in the wintertime again. And also with the generators, we've had an issue with the generator. So hopefully this will give us a little leeway in the future. Any questions on those groups? Okay, all right.
Good. Thank you, Ed.
Okay. All right, you're welcome. All right, now, fleet. Fleet again, the salaries is 2%. Now, I did a lot for promote Mike and Tanner to mechanic 1A.
Ed, I'm just going to stop you there. Please don't speak about specific employees.
I'm sorry. I didn't think about that.
So the fleet management regular salaries is the 252. That's inclusive of contractual obligations through the AFSCME contract.
Yep, I apologize about that. I'm reading what my notes are saying. Okay, let's see here. All right, conference and education. We left that the same, $1,000 for this year as far as last year. The MUA vehicle maintenance, left that 5,000 as we did last year for 5,000. Fire truck repairs, we picked it up to 50,000 compared to 47,000 last year. The regular vehicle repair, we left that at 225,000. We see the radio repair, we left that at 6,000, same as last year, 6,000, which we're going to have to try to figure out what's going on with the radios as far as whether it's going to be some tower issues or some maybe another base, but we'll get that figured out as we go. Okay, that's it for that section. Any questions there, Annette?
Yeah, Ed, did you say $47,000 for fire truck repairs?
Fire truck, we kicked it up to 50,000.
No, it's
Right.
47.
Was it?
It's 47. And I don't think you have the updated, the spreadsheets I sent to everybody, the council packet.
But last year to date, you spent $47,000 in repairs?
Well, yeah, last year I had 2020 budget was 47,000. The 2021 I had 50,000.
Right, but
You had requested 50, we put in 47.
where I'm going with this, the actual amount spent And on what vehicles, what trucks was that spent on? What trucks are breaking down? And what repairs are needed? Because when we get to
That I'd have to get,
we're gonna be looking for 2 new tankers.
right. That I'd have to get a hold of Pete and we can get that figured out where you need it.
Okay, thank you. No, I just appreciate to see what trucks are going for the management plan of these vehicles, because, you know, we have millions of dollars invested in these trucks, and we need to keep them up to date for our volunteers so they can do their job.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. All right, next up, parks. Again, with the salaries, that was a lot up for 2% across the board on that. Let's see, field maintenance. Field maintenance, we were at 60,000 last year. We kicked it up to 70,000 this year. Obviously, we're going to have some issues that we're going to have to take care of. And again, some other things that we were anticipating possibly, just to be on the safe side. Obviously, like rental of the portable lights for 3 months. So that's like 3,000 for 3 months. So again, this is just something that we were allotting for. Let's see, what else we got here? Let's see. Okay, that's it for that section. Any questions
That's
on
it,
that?
yep.
Yeah, I have
That's
a question there, Ed, if you don't mind. So,
Sure. Go ahead.
the second line, looks like salaries went up from actual, 117 to 165. Was that a head count added?
So just to be clear about the salaries again, so in the past, they had allotted one of the employees that split between parks and roads. That was put all into roads before. What I did was I corrected that. It shouldn't, if somebody's split between parks and roads half and half, they should be split between parks and roads in the budget. So that's been corrected. That's been like that for years. I just wanted to make it the way it should be.
Okay, so it's half of someone's salary, the extra
Yes, so it's half of someone's
47,000.
salary there and then half in roads.
Okay,
Thank
you.
It's actually a correction the way it should be.
yep,
From
Yes.
an
thank you.
accounting standpoint, that's what she's done.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and can I go back to fleet management on vehicle repairs?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. On fleet management and vehicle repairs, we're making a transition into a lot of lease vehicles. And part of the reason for doing that was to reduce the repair costs and maintenance so that we had newer vehicles. Does that not have a higher compensation, or should there be a lower reduction in vehicle repairs with that?
We've only just gotten in a few of those vehicles.
Okay.
So similar to what the chief had discussed, the first year we ordered our vehicles later in the year because they have cutoffs earlier in the year for that model year. So because our budget wasn't passed earlier and we didn't pass a capital ordinance, earlier in the year, we had that issue with ordering that didn't get ordered until later. And then last year, the issues that we hit with COVID, all the plants shut down. So in order to order our vehicles and then get them in, we ordered them in a reasonable amount of time, but with the plant being shut down, we couldn't get quotes or pricing on anything until really the end of the year last year.
Okay.
So they haven't really seen that. We haven't been able to see the turnaround and what that's actually going to do. I'm hoping with the vehicles. I think we just got a couple of weeks ago, Ed. I don't remember. I get all the emails and there's so many of them. But hopefully with the vehicles that we're getting in now, we will start to see that turnaround.
Okay.
It'd be nice if we could see it this year, at the end of this year, what it looks like after 2021, with regards to repairs.
Very good, because that is a concern that we're going to newer vehicles and trying to keep the maintenance down so that we can keep the vehicles on the road. And I know this year with the snow removal, there's been a lot of damage as well.
But you also have to take in consideration that I'll just use the term, the single axle trucks, the larger body trucks that we have, those aren't able to lease. And a lot of those, even though I know when I was still working there, even though a lot of the new trucks, still maintenance issues and repair issues that would crop up. We would send trucks out. They wouldn't even make it back when they were going back. It's the same issue with, the computers and everything sometimes aren't the greatest investment in some of these trucks for what we use them for. So in that regard, that fleet is always going to need to be repaired and money spent there.
Thanks for sharing that.
There is one sub-account that I didn't touch base on, and Danelle, I just found my sheet that you sent me here. The fire system. We let $5,000 in 2021 for the fire system to update. Now, obviously, we have a fire system that's across the street, the DPW, that needs to be updated, and also some issues at the municipal building. So we definitely had to allot for that. Nothing was in line for 2020, so that's another number that we had to make sure we had to come up with something. And the building and grounds obviously was 35. That's at 45,000 as of now. So 2021.
And just to let you
okay.
know, with regards to the fire system that Ed just mentioned, it is in the capital plan. We already put into a bond ordinance a couple of years ago for the alarm system here, and then we'll be taking care of, as a part of that, the system that's over in the DPW as well this year.
Right, and the other thing for the MUA vehicle repairs, that's only 2,000 for 2021 since it's a newer vehicle. I know we had talked about, and Danelle, again, I'm sorry, this is the sheet that was in the middle of my pile. Sorry, that since it was a newer vehicle, there shouldn't have been too much as far as the maintenance goes. That's why we let up 2,000. If I remember correctly, Danelle.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Next up. Do parts. Okay, with there. Right. Okay. All right. I think that is it. My capital stuff.
We can go, and I was going to go over capital later. In regards to the schedule that we have. So I can go through capital because I want to talk about how they're being paid for and stuff, but you and I have already discussed your capital projects and they're all in here, so.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no problem with that. Absolutely. Any questions on that, or?
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks,
All right.
Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Now, take care.
All right. If we can move on to fire prevention. Is Lou on? I don't see him.
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
there
hear
you
you,
are.
Lou.
Yeah. Okay.
How's that?
Very good.
Can you see me?
We can't see you, Lou, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay. First time I'm doing a Zoom meeting. Okay.
Hey, Lou, could you
yeah.
slide your camera open up at top?
I don't see that.
A little slide, but at
On the
top.
very top, Lou.
On the very top.
Yeah, it's you can't see it. You got to stand up and look at the top as you're looking down at it.
Is Lou in the building?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll come help you.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
If you want, we can do volunteer emergency services since
Yeah.
it's right before fire prevention. And it's
Okay,
page,
that's great.
it's page, oh my gosh, I don't know what page this is.
So that would be 26020. Continue down from there. How about now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see
Hi.
you.
Good, Lou.
All right, Lou, you can go first then for fire prevention, and I'll just go over the emergency services after yours.
Okay, you just want me to do mine first? All right.
Yep.
So you want me to do what each department's getting? So
Well, I mean, if you want to do them,
26077.
go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so Highland Lakes Fire Department, McAfee Fire Department, Pochuck Fire Department, Vernon Fire Department, Glenwood Ambulance, and Vernon Ambulance. Nothing has changed since last year, so it'll be 45,000 for the fire departments, 35,000 for the ambulance. Okay?
Yep.
Going down to 26090, equipment repair and maintenance. Last year was 45,000. We're down to 30,000 out of that line item. State fire mandate, Last year was 35,000. We're down to 30,000 with that one. Member clothing allowance was 35,000 last year. That's cut back to 30,000 this year. All right, that concludes that section. Fire prevention, salary and wages. Last year was 149,000. This year it's budgeted for 169. We did hire another part-timer, and due to the spike in work, and he's getting 10 hours now. We're looking for 20 hours coming up this year. That concludes that.
Talk a little bit about that spike in work, Lou.
The spike in work would be, we had a real spike in CO inspections with everybody moving into town. And then we started the STR program, right, which we'll see the benefits of that this year coming up. Right, so that's another roughly that we guesstimated 220 inspections added on to the workload. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so 26521, office supplies, last year was 300. We're looking for 1,000. Because of the spike in work, we need more office materials. 26523, education conference and seminars, 800 last year. We're staying the same with that. 26524, last year was budgeted for 7,500. This year's the same thing. We didn't use the 7,500 last year. That's the printed material for all the children in the schools for Fire Prevention Week. Okay, hopefully this year we'll be using that program again. Work zone safety, same thing, 500 last year, 500 this year. Computer service, 3,500 last year, 3,500 this year. Uniforms, 1,000 last year, 1,000 this year. And then membership and publications, same thing, 650 last year, 650 this year. And that concludes pretty much everything I got. Am I talking about capital budget or no?
I can talk about it later. I know that Tom
Okay.
is on too.
I have a
I mean, I
question
can
real
touch
quick
on it
about,
really. Go ahead.
and this is just for me, I'm not questioning anyone, just understanding. Why do some fire departments get more than others?
It's actually the four fire departments get one amount, and then the other two are the ambulance. So the ambulances get a different amount. Sorry, I just
Oh, okay.
clicked the wrong thing. Yeah. So the fire departments are getting 45,000. Those are
Okay.
reimbursement amounts, and then the
Yep.
ambulance get the 35.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so you talk about capital later?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a question here, whether it's Lou or Danelle. Again, I look at the 2021 budget proposed, and I look at the 2020 year-to-date number. There's a discrepancy of $100,000 just on the 260 area. Are we in? There's areas where you line by line, you see very high variables on costs spent.
So the amounts that are in the reimbursements for the fire departments and the ambulance, usually we don't max those out until probably March of the current year. Some people are behind, like some fire departments or ambulances are behind in submitting their reimbursement amounts to us. So I know like I know one of them, we just finished paying out, I think on the last check run that we did. So it's just a matter of when it turns over. You just have to remember that these accounts get charged to even in the current year from prior year expenses. So these numbers were, I believe, as of 12/31, but they could be adjusted based on additional amounts that they've submitted for.
Okay, so like the state fire mandate, year-to-date, 0. So that bill hasn't been paid yet.
The state fire mandate nothing was used last year. But we do, if you look in prior years, we have used it in prior years.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I know Lou can probably speak to what gets charged to that, and it could be an issue that with COVID, we just, we didn't do any of those things or charge.
That's exactly correct. State fire mandate is your pump certifications on your fire trucks that you have to have done every year, your hose testing, any type of equipment that needs to be, your rescue tools, by state mandate have to be tested. So everything, it's mostly the equipment and the trucks that the state mandates has to be tested and up to speed.
Okay.
And I think, Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, we did them, I think, late in 2019. Like pretty late in 2019. So I think it could just be that, you know, we still have time maybe to do those things. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did most of that, actually it was November of 2019 that I think we did that. Does that answer your question, sir?
That answered my questions. Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right, that's it.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
I guess we can,
Are we going on the original agenda now?
yeah, we can go to the original agenda. Yes. Yes,
I don't have
Danielle.
any problem with letting other people out, other department heads out early and saving us to the end.
Well, okay.
That's up to council.
Who wants to step up? Because Chuck's not gonna be here.
I'll go. I'll go.
Kristen, did I hear you?
I mean, is that okay with council? I know some of you guys are using your computers and it's in order. You can click around, but some of you are using paper, so I don't know what makes it easier for you.
I'm okay, however you want to present it. It's up to the other council persons because it really doesn't matter to me.
I'm okay. I'm flipping through everything, so I'm fine.
All right. Who raised their hand first?
I'm not gonna fight about it.
It's your birthday.
Kristen,
I'll
let's
go.
go.
Birthday girl goes.
It's your birthday,
Sorry,
Kristen. You're
Mayor.
your first choice.
This is the best birthday present. All right. Okay, so the assessment office. We have a small increase in salary over last year. That's a contractual increase. Our office supplies is going to stay the same. No change there. Education and conference is going to stay the same. That was barely used last year, but that's because of COVID. It seems the assessors are starting to figure out how to do some like virtual education. I'm already signed up for 2 classes in March. And then there is a conference in August. I don't know what the status of that is going to be yet. We have materials and supplies is going up a little bit. There's an increase there. We almost always spend the entire budget, if not go over. The increase is because with the annual reassessment, we need to buy like 3,000 to 4,000 envelopes every year. So we're increasing because of that, as well as sometimes the software that we use, microsystems, that bill tends to go up a little bit. We have an advertising fee of $100. That is a statutory advertisement I need to do of the tax list every year. Tax appeal, that's for our appraisal expert, 20,000, that's staying the same. We didn't use very much of it last year, but we have probably spent almost the amount spent last year already in 2021 with some appeal negotiations, and we are scheduled to have a tax court trial this fall. And so he's writing reports for us, and we're gonna have to pay him to be present at the trial. We have computer services, 2,500. That is, I think that's the, actually, I said the microsystems going into the 15,000, but that actually, the computer services is where we pay for our microsystems. That's staying the same. Tax map maintenance staying the same at 5,000. This is the category we need to spend money in because Vernon Township a few years ago had a very expensive new tax map made, and the reason a new map gets ordered by the state is because maintenance isn't done. So we're going to spend a few $1,000s every year maintaining the tax map to avoid a very large future purchase of a brand new tax map being done. The reassessment budget is going up a little bit. That's just because we didn't budget for the full contract amount of $100,000 a year. Last year, we budgeted $80,000. This year, we're budgeting for the full $100,000. And that is the contract price. Membership and dues is staying the same. That's it. Any questions?
I have none.
Okay. We're good.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have none.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Lisa, you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we have for salary and wages, we have a little bit of an increase, but that's contractual.
What is this one for? I'm sorry.
Tax collector.
Tax
collector.
collector.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I apologize.
Sorry, can you give us a page
No, that's
number?
okay.
So we have office supplies
I
that,
don't have numbers on my
20.
pages.
Number 20,
No, you got it?
page
Okay.
20, yep.
Thank you.
okay, so we have office supplies staying the same as last year at 3,000. The education and conferences, same as last year, 4,950. The materials, 11,000, same as last year. Advertising is at 4,500. As you can actually see what we spent in 2020 for advertising for the tax sale, it was over 10,000. Just for the hotel alone, advertising for them was $10,500 through the online auction. The computer service is going up 500 because that's our admin system. It's recording of municipal tax sale certificates at $1,000. That's staying the same, and membership dues, that's also staying the same at $200.
Can I ask what the increase from 117 actual of 2020 to the salaries of 138 is? Is that a head count?
No, not a head count. So again, we had our shared service agreements with the MUA. We had 2 shared service agreements originally that ended that ended at the end of 2019. This year in 2020, we passed a combination of those 2 agreements to better reflect the actual cost of the township to be more fair. So basically what happened was there was a larger shared service that went towards the administration and tax collection. The current shared service reflects actual costs. So we did see that increase because they're not getting as much of an offset to their budget line from the MUA.
So they were being paid by the MUA?
No. So they're not being paid. So the way it works is the shared service. And if you look in the other areas of the budget, there's that shared services grants line. We have to make appropriations for those shared services. But what happened in the past is the town didn't budget for the full amounts of those salaries in those lines. They took into account that the amount coming in from the MUA would offset that. And they almost did that to like the dollar, which is not the best thing to do. Because if the whole agreement was canceled with the MUA, because the MUA could hire their own people, if the whole agreement was canceled, then you'd have to budget for all of it anyway. So what happened was with the revamping of the agreements, with the discussion between the board and the township, and looking at the actual costs that the township incurred on behalf of the MUA, the current agreements reflect those actual costs. So rather than overcharging the MUA, we're charging what they should be charged.
Okay.
This can be a little tricky, Tony. I know this for me. That's why I walked down the hall and talked to Donnell. I invite you to please, and then the council people, please to come in and we'll sit down individually with you and just kind of go through this because it can be a little tricky.
Yeah, that part I'm not sure I'm understanding too well. So that'd be great if I'll come in and get a little one-on-one, but thank you.
Yes. Okay. That's that. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
If there's no other questions.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, could we have Kim, please. And would you, I don't have numbers on my page either, Donnell. Would you indicate to the council what page that is so they can get that?
Yep, page 22. It's right after tax assessment.
Okay,
Hi, everybody.
that's
Hi,
land
Kim.
use. Okay,
Okay, ready?
yes.
Okay, so we have salary and wages that went up a little bit, but that's general increase.
There's somebody, is somebody else in your office with their microphone on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alice and I have the same office.
my microphone as well.
Alice is there.
If one of you, can one of you mute your computer? That's why you're getting the feedback.
All right, well, I'll go over to hers. Hold on.
No, just mute your computer.
Should I log out and leave this?
No. No, just have Allison mute her computer.
She did.
She is
She's
muted.
Okay. Good.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
but
Kim.
you're still getting the feedback.
No, you have to mute the actual sound on your computer. So on your new monitor, there's a little there's a little speaker with an X on it. Click that.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
No.
No,
No?
no. Actually, turn your sound all the way down as you would on your telephone.
Got a better idea.
What?
I'm out. Oh, no, I'm not. Why am I not out?
Just hit leave meeting.
I'm leaving. I'm out.
Okay,
Okay, let's try this again.
yes, that's better.
Just so the
Alright.
council knows, these are new computers that were installed within the last couple of weeks. And for most everybody here, it's a first time we're using them for Zoom, as you might have guessed already.
Yeah.
All right, so Allison came over by me, so we're good. Here we go. Okay, so office supplies staying the same. Education, conference, seminars staying the same. Materials and supplies staying the same. Advertising, if you'll see, it went up a little bit, but that's because of COVID. And if we can't go back to regular meetings, I'm going to have to start advertising for each meeting that we have. That'll be Zoom. Recording secretary stayed the same. Computer services, that's for our spatial data computers that we need for zoning and land use. My land use board planner actually went down a little bit. We put her down to 32, that she's doing the town center redevelopment plan. Plus we have to do the update of the master plan this year. So that is for that. Membership and publications, that stayed the same. Engineering for my land use board engineer stayed the same. Legal stayed the same, again, for the master plan and the redevelopment plan. And GIS spatial data, that's for updating the computers.
And the only increase that we have is like the contractual across the board, 2%. So.
Right.
Okay.
Nice job.
Any questions?
Okay. If there's no questions, let's see. Why don't we go to
Lindsay had raised her hand before.
Okay, I'm sorry. Give us a page number, please, Donnell.
I'm sorry.
It's going to be Lindsay. Would you give us a page number?
Yep, it should be page like 34. I added a couple items in mine, so mine says 36, but I think yours is 34. It's after seniors and recreation.
What's the subject of it? Because I don't have
Municipal
numbers.
court.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay, so the office supplies had stayed the same. I think on Donnell, did you update their copies?
I did not update their copy. That was not supposed to read $400 from last year. It's supposed to be 600. That did not change.
So it's the same. It stayed at 600. For the education conference seminars, stayed the same at 800. For material supplies and postage, that one was 2,000 for 2020. So that stayed the same for 2021. Credit card fees, we kept at 3,000 as last year. COVID, we had a decrease in payments, so the bills weren't as much. I added a line item for uniforms. I don't know if anyone can see. We had the shirts made, the polo shirts. We started doing that last year at our own expense and didn't ask the town to pay for them. So I was trying to add it into this year. It gives no one the opportunity to dress inappropriately. We always look the same, uniform, professional. So I would like to add that in. Memberships and publications stayed the same. Interpreter, $500 stayed the same. Alternate judge, we decreased down to $1,000, which is a mandatory amount that we have to have. Judges now, they, with Zoom and everything, they just sit in for one another. They always owe each other a favor, so there should usually be no fee for another judge coming in. Alternate court attendant stayed the same at $500, and subpoena fees stayed the same as well. And that is all.
I just think it's really nice that you bought your own uniforms last year, and I'm happy that you have it in the budget this year. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, they actually look nice. And, we're not trying to overdo anything, but we want to show the employees that we respect them. And when people come into the town, we want to look like a very professional organization. So, and I appreciate, Tony, you mentioning that. I hope the council people don't feel this an exaggeration, but it's a good thing.
No, I agree. I think, and it's so nice that last year they went and did it above and beyond, just on their own. That's great. And I'm happy it's in the budget. They shouldn't have to pay for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Looks good.
Lindsay, did you want to mention that there's an expectation that you might be going back to live trials by the middle of this year?
We can only hope because there's a massive backlog. But if we do wind up going back to in-person court, we will have to install barriers in the courtroom. But we found on Amazon, and we should be able to cover everything in our current budget on Amazon and everything. They weren't that costly. A lot of courts have done it, and they supplied the link and everything that everyone's been using.
We'll have to hire police officers, though, will we not? If we go back to live court.
We've always had a police officer, yes, with live court. The chief has always sent someone up. He prefers it that way, and so does the judge, to have that presence in the courtroom. And then, yes, we'd have to bring back the security officer that scans everyone at the front door.
Yeah.
Hey. Just so you might want to mention to the council.
As of right now,
No, I just thought you might want to mention to the council that a lot of the things that you do in your department are mandated by the state, and the township has no say in how they're done. Did you hear that?
Kind of were breaking up there a little, Chuck.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. If the rest of the council can hear me, I just want to say that the court office is governed more by the state administrative office of the courts as to how they do things. And a lot of those things, we'll get notified that you have to do this or you have to do that. We don't get any say in it. It's mandated by the state, and all municipalities having courts have to comply.
Yeah, our state's famous for its unfunded mandates.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
When we do go back to live court, does the police salary go into this budget, or does it go into the police budget?
It's usually someone that's always on duty, so it shouldn't ever incur overtime. They usually send someone up because court could last anywhere from an hour to 5 hours, and they usually send someone on duty, so it doesn't normally incur overtime.
If you're asking if there's a breakout, there is not.
Okay, we're getting a little breaking up. I hope it's not contagious.
Okay, it's not just me, it's happening to everyone.
Yeah, hope it's not contagious. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Council members, unless you have any questions, we'll let Lindsay go.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Do the same.
Michelle, you want to go next?
Sure.
Give us a page number, please, Donnell.
Sure, it should be 33,
And the name of the account is
seniors and recreation.
Seniors and Recreation. Okay.
It's right after the DPW.
All right. So nothing really changed in mine at all from last year, except the senior center salaries. I have to go up just slightly because some of the staff we get in the senior center comes through county programs, but they have strict criteria as to who they can hire. It has to be, 55 and older, certain income requirements, and then that, along with COVID, we haven't been able to match up to get that additional person that we normally have. And now that we are reopening back up a lot of things, including the senior grab and go lunch meals, we need to have that extra person. So the 4,000 increase in that is to cover for that person that we would like to hire. Everything else remained the same. If you want me to go line by line, I can, or if you just want to take a look and let me know if you have any questions, we can do it that way. Anyone?
No, but I think you're doing a great job with the senior center and the lunches, how you did it last year outside were really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, they come and they line up and pick them up like a drive-through type thing right now. They're waiting for us to be able to have outside and inside again.
It was like a little restaurant. It was cute.
Yeah. Yep.
And
So
how
it
you
was a
set
good job,
up-
Michelle.
and how you set
Thank
up
you.
in the back of the parking lot, I really thought that was remarkable. It really
Yeah,
was.
it was nice.
Great job.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
Great job, well done.
it came together nicely.
I'm looking forward to the return of the seniors whenever we can get them. But I'm also looking forward to inviting the entire council down to the senior center. You're going to really be surprised and I hope impressed. We have a local artist who volunteered and has done a mural on one full wall. And it's actually a mural of looking at Vernon Township from, I guess, what do you call
Top of the
it?
stairs. Yep, the stairway
Yes,
to
top
heaven.
of the stairway to heaven.
Mhm.
And it's literally just beautiful. And she's donating this. I'm looking forward to just giving her some Detta boys or Detta girls, but the senior center is going to be really, really nice.
Great.
They're going to be pleasant surprise. So I'm looking forward when we get that done to invite you all down there where we can all come into a building live again.
That would be nice.
Thank you.
Thank you
Did
very
anyone-
much, Michelle.
Okay, thank you.
We never did get Allison, did we not?
She's under land use, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So she's covered.
Yep.
All right.
So who do we have?
Let's go with Bob. Could we go with Robert now?
Yep.
Give us
Hello,
a
can you
page
hear-
number.
Yep,
hear
the
me?
page number is 23 and it's building department.
Okay, I'm gonna just get the O&Es out of the way. Office supplies, 1750 was the budget, remains unchanged. Office, education conference seminars was 1,200, remained on the same. Should be noted, in case the question gets asked, that obviously that was very low last year with COVID. I mean, the use of the balance of the money. Materials and supplies is 1750, no change. Computer, I believe in talking to Donnell and Chuck, that's all, everything to do with SDL, which I have no control over, but it's 9,300, remained unchanged. Membership and publications is $1,600, unchanged, but again, very low because of COVID. So really, the O&E part of it did not change. The change in my budget is the salary line item. 2020 budget was 450,000, and this year it jumped up to 465. A couple of the reasons are, number one is I've now absorbed Angie Bates full-time into my budget line. Is that
And
correct?
just be
Donnell?
careful, please.
I'm
Please
sorry.
just don't mention
Sorry.
names.
Sorry. I will take that name back. Somebody who was in my department part-time is now full-time in the department, which, by the way, I'd like to add at this time, and we spoke about this in December, has been godsend because of the customer improvement, the turnaround time and permits, customer complaints have gone down, et cetera, et cetera. So that's godsend. The only other thing other guys and Vanel can talk to it obviously is the whatever adjustments are made with the percentage of increase. My 2 inspectors have brought to the table now additional licenses. Again, I'm not going to mention the name, but my key building inspector now, who is licensed in building, plumbing, or building and mechanical, is now licensed in plumbing, which is giving me a terrific flexibility. Certainly frees up a lot of time for me to be in the office, which we talked about from the management perspective. The second inspector, and there's only 2 in the department, is brought to the table also a mechanical license, which can afford me terrific. He happens to be licensed in electric, fire, and plumbing, or electric, fire, and mechanical, which is a very big deal, very big help to me in regards to the condos, because the condos have certain requirements with multifamily. And with the age of the condos, and we are generating profit, I mean, we are generating revenue from there. Instead of 2 inspectors on certain inspections for furnaces and water heaters and things like that, I can send this key individual out, 1 inspector on the same call. So customer satisfaction, saving money, 1 car to, et cetera. It's a win-win situation. But that being said, and I spoke again this in December at the meeting, was with those additional licenses, and I can appreciate this because I'm licensed in all 5, the licenses have got to be recognized. The accomplishments have got to be recognized. So I think that's the difference in the fact that looking back at records, and again, for the new council members, I've only been here since last July, so I can't speak to the past history other than this past 8 months. The thing here is that we have to turn permits around quicker. We have to make use of the best with what we have. And I saw in the past where there was 3.5, I guess the equivalent of 3.5 full-timers, or 3 full-timers and a half-time. We're doing it with me being in the office. That's 3 full-time people, but I'm not even on the road as much as I should be because I'm cleaning up the stuff that I inherited. So we are doing more with less. I'd like to think that we are now cleaning up old permits, and so I'm getting stuff to the tax office for ratables. Working closely with Chuck and everybody with the STRs, vacant property list. Our penalties and violations have really picked up. I'm not trying to be punitive, but there is work that goes on in town. It's a very rural community. People are working behind closed doors. People are working well off the road, not getting permits. And that's not fair to the people who do legitimize and take permits. All that being said, I feel that I know there was questions on the increase. I can only offer to you that, and I said this to the mayor and Chuck before, and I thank Donnell for conservatively budgeting, what our revenue is because of COVID last year, which, by the way, in the end, we did make out pretty well. But in the first 2 months and 3 days, I have banked $113,000. And in the last 5 years, which I shared with the mayor, the highest ever was 2019, and that was 82,000. And that was, from what I understand, an anomaly because of NWAC. The average year was anywhere from a low of 43,000 to a high of 64. So if the first 2 months have mean anything, I think we're online. And I told the mayor that we have to at least make $2,000 a day, $10,000 a week, $40,000 a month for 480 just to hit our budget for salaries. I feel confident we're going to do that, and I think we're going to be well above it. That's it. If any of the council has a question that I can answer, again, I apologize for being new. I can't speak to the past. I can only tell you what we're going forward.
Well, let me apologize to the council because I should. At our meeting in December, we promised that we'd have a year-end report to you by January, and that's not done. It's a matter of me not probably setting the right priorities. We're looking at trying to bring in more money, have Bob to do that, than to do some other things. That's not an excuse, that's just a fact. But we will have that report to you. What did we agree, the 15th?
March 15th, I will have it. And again, I thank the mayor for backing me on that, but I really selfishly, I kind of held off a little bit other than get my state report done, but I really wanted to see how the first 2 months would come in. I was excited about January and I held off with the second month, just so I could make some intelligent forecasting. So I do expect to have that to you by March 15th, which will be the annual report for 2020. It'll include a lot of information on what was going on in the past and and hopefully goals that I've set for the department for 2021.
As a department that has seen its share of complaints, and perhaps justifiably so, I can tell you we are turning things around, and words can only go so far. We're going to supply you the numbers, but I went to the Economic Advisory Development Advisory Committee last night, and one of the questions they asked me is that, gee, we're hearing so many good comments about the building department, what's happening over there. And I'm glad that we're hearing that. You know, when you try to turn anything around, you try to turn a huge ship around, you got a long reputation, it takes some time. But this is literally paying off. And I'm actually looking forward to Bob's report. And I apologize for not having it. You shouldn't have to ask me for it. If we commit to you, we're going to have it. We should have it. So if there's any other questions, there was some information that was some questions that were asked by Council President Shortway and by Councilman Pitsker. Please feel free, from my standpoint, to share that with the other council members, because you asked some excellent questions, right. And it just might reveal a lot to them. So please feel free to do that.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. And just so everybody knows, I probably sent 27 different questions, and thanks for making Donnell available to answer probably another 24 more, and I'll probably post those so the public sees it. But I really appreciate you getting that information to us because there's a lot of questions. We have to vote on this, so we need that information to make an intelligent decision and so the public can know. So I really appreciate you having your department heads and yourself and Chuck answer those questions. And, you know, it's been a big thing of mine about the STRs, and I'll explain that in my comments at the end, in the building department, how valuable they are to enforce our ordinances and to get the revenue that the other taxpayers depend on to keep our rut down. But I'll talk more about that at the end, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you know what, I view us really as a team. I know that I get certain questions, but there are 5 of you who get questions from different people, and you really need the answers to be able to answer intelligently and with some kind of integrity. One of the things that Councilman Pitsker asked, he talked about, you know, we want to see if we can kind of reduce the amount of tax dollars that we have to pass on to our taxpayers. And so what are we doing to kind of bring in income? That's an interesting kind of question, but I understand where it comes from, because like him, I came from years of working in the private sector, and you look at things like that. But in reality, we don't really make money, but there's a way that we can bring in more money and to reduce the cost. And the building department is one of the key ones, and we're working hard to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from council members? Or
I would just like to say it's great to hear that the public is seeing a change in the department, so it's easier, because moving forward, that department is a key for, especially on the commercial end of moving the town forward. Because if you can go and get what you need from the town and get your inspections done in a reasonable amount of time, that word spreads, whether it's good or bad, and that is key if that keeps moving forward in the direction that it is.
That's correct, John. The mayor's talked to me numerous times. We have probably right now in the office here about 10 commercial projects and some mixed use stuff. So big work is starting to come in, but as the mayor and I and Chuck have talked about, it's got to be a priority because they'll move on if they don't get service here. I'd like to also at this point in time just add that I may be coming back to the council during the year to review our fee structure because I feel our commercial fee structure is a little bit too low. We don't have a lot of commercial, but we're really doing permits a little bit too low on that end. So I'd like to make sure that we keep an open mind to that because again, if I can keep the commercial fees where they should be, it takes a little burden off of the residential, and the town is pretty much residential, so there's only so much I can do. But again, if it's any sign of the year, and I don't want to jinx myself with the economy, we got a good 10 or 12 projects sitting in here, and the mayor knows a few of them between the car wash and a few other things. And that's good money. It's good money. So it's going to help my budget bottom line tremendously if I can get them all through.
Well, it's just great that the department is working better because what we're here for is the public.
I've met with a lot.
So
I've met a lot with public and builders and contractors, and then they all had the same complaint. A lot of it is communication and turnaround. Communication and turnaround. So that's paramount.
It's really amazing to me the difference in the two additional licenses that we got. Rather than sending one person over with one license to inspect something, and the person says, "Am I finished?" Oh no, you got to reschedule for this other person. And
exactly.
Then 2 or 3 months later, the next person goes over, and the next person goes over another car. We're saving in terms of gas, and when we can get one inspector to go over and satisfy one customer, they spread that word around. It's amazing. I guess things were really so bad in terms of the attitude that some people perceive that existed in that department until I'm actually getting people to call me and say, "Oh, this is great. I had one guy to come over and took care of everything. I'd have to go 2 or 3 guys." So there are lots of little things that are happening. And then that gets into it's a way of earning money too in so many different ways. So
it's important that you let us know that was the plan, and that's one of my questions. What's the plan? And that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But once we know it, it's able to explain it. It's able to explain it to us also.
And Council President Shortway, I'm going to explain that very, very fully in that annual report in black and white. And I welcome any questions that you have for that, because I think, as the mayor told me earlier today, it's an education process also for the council. What I know is the blue book in the back of my hand is one thing, but I need to educate you and the public on how we did things in the past, how we do it right now, and where the improvement is. And there's still room for improvement, Council President. We've come a long way, but there's still a lot of work I got to do.
Well,
and to answer your question about the backlog, I can't even tell you, and you'll see it in the numbers, we have closed a tremendous amount of permits, tremendous. And I've also probably issued tremendous amount of COs on property from 2002 on up. So I'm hoping that the ratables and that Kirsten and everybody sees, I work closely with her. I'm hoping that is being enjoyed also somehow, some way.
Yeah, it's just being fair and reasonable to everybody that plays by the rules.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I have to agree, Robert, because one of the things I've said to the mayor and town council president is that this is a business, and business people want to make it easy for those business people to come here and do the right things. And some of the things I heard today, and I hope to hear more during the annual report, that's the tools for us to grow in the future. So thanks.
Right. And if I can make it user friendly, people will come in for permits.
Exactly.
They weren't doing that before. They were avoiding the office, and we were avoiding the income.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a vicious circle.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, you're not going home. You never do, but thank you.
Well, I'm going to sit for the rest of the meeting, and the second shift starts very soon.
Yes. Donnell, where do we go next?
Well, it could be me or Marcy.
Marcy?
Oh, yes. I have to do this too. Okay, so the clerk's budget. We have a contractual increase in our salaries. Most of the clerk's budget is going down, as you can see, or staying the same. The only big thing that is going up is our election supplies. And unfortunately, that's not something we can control. We get a bill from the county and that's what we have to pay. With COVID last year, I asked for that increase because of the mail-in ballots. The election was all mail-in, and believe it or not, that costs a lot of money, more than having the polls open. So as you can see, office supplies, we went down. Our education and seminars stayed the same. The clerk's office does require a lot of education. I do. I have to keep up 2 different licenses that I have to get credits for. If I don't keep up with those licenses, I actually will lose them. Our materials and supplies went down. Our advertising stayed the same. That's all our legal advertisements for ordinances, meetings. Again, there's our election. Computer software support stayed the same. Our contracted services went down by $3,000. Codification of ordinances stayed the same. And as you can see, we use pretty much all that we had in our budget from 2020. O&E, recording management, we took that out. We had $2,000 in there for a long time and was never used. Membership and publications also went down a lot. So the clerk's budget is pretty much, it went up a little bit just for one line. So.
Marcy, I talked to the council a little bit about that line item, contracted services. That was $3,500 one year, and we're budgeting $500 this year. Talk to them a little bit about that. Explain it.
Contracted services, when I started at the beginning of, well, actually at the end of last December of 2019, there was the former clerk had a publication for a legal publication. I didn't know why it was there. I questioned it, and I was told by one person, "Oh, you're going to use that. The clerk always used that." I would never use that. It was actually you can go in and you can read laws, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be one. And as I said at the budget last year, that's what we pay our municipal attorney for. If I have any legal questions, I call him. He's on retainer. He's there for me all the time. So that was a real big deal. That was a lot of money that was being spent by the former clerk just for that. So I was happy to find that. You know, when you have to present the budget, you really look at it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. I have a question, and maybe it's for Danelle. And again, it's not me questioning anything, but just trying to learn. So when it doesn't pertain to this sheet, I'm just when it says salaries, are we allowed to know how many salaries are in a number? From year to year?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted, you know, you could email over and I can give you those dollar amounts for those positions. They are right now, sorry, just real quick.
In general, I just meant in general, like I don't need to know it for this, but I was just wondering in general, like, so this budget would be, you know, clerk salaries, 4 positions. And then next year, you know, if it goes up, we see 5 positions or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, we can do something like that for you.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, for the line items, questioning. Yeah, for the salary line items too that we have for the UAW employees, we currently don't have an active contract with them, so their contract ended at the end of 2020. So I know administration is in negotiation, so I did budget 2%. I may have, if it was a decimal amount at 2%, I might have increased it 1,000 or so, because I don't know what that's going to be. You never know with negotiations. Step increases could change. It could be a 1.5%. I'm just throwing this out here. If anyone's on the UAW, please don't quote me on this. But it could be a 1.5%. But if we have step increases, the steps could increase. So I have to make a little room for us so that we're not like locked into this tiny amount and we don't have it.
No, I totally understand that, but I just, you see, and again, I'm not looking at this. I was thinking overall, every time I kept asking a question, I'm like, oh, I'd like to know how many salaries are in that big number. And then next year when the budget comes out, it could be to say, oh, okay, I don't even have to ask the question. I see another headcount.
Yeah. And if you want, we can get a list of that. I mean, if that's okay with administration.
Yeah, what I would like in response to the council person's question, what I'd like for us to add in the future to these charts, for it says salary and rate, wages in parentheses, a dash, 6 positions, 5 positions.
Yeah.
8 positions, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, something simple like that.
Yeah, something like that. No names, but just how many positions.
Okay. Right.
That's what we'll do.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
And Marcy, good job finding that 3,000.
Like I said, when you're looking at it and you have to explain it, you definitely, no, when I started, I didn't know what this was and I questioned it, and it was definitely, for me, it would have been a total waste. I would have never used it. To go on a website and look at legal statutes, books, whatever. I can't even read it, to be honest with you. So it wouldn't have helped me at all. So
no, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, you want to go next with mayor and council?
Sure. Oh, okay, mayor and council.
I think we've got everybody, right?
Yep.
Or I have finance too as well.
Okay. Well,
we want to save the best for last, Mayor.
Okay.
All right, I'll go.
You want to go Donnell next?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, go
ahead. No, if you need to go ahead.
So for finance, it's finance and audit. It's page 19. It's right after Marcy's. So salaries and wages are staying the same for regular and permanent part-time. I did have a retirement this year. It's very unfortunate, but we have a retirement payout that we had to do. So we do pay out sick and vacation time. So the salaries and wages are staying the same. My O&E line, so I adjusted a few dollar amounts around. My total amount is the same at the 20,300. Just to go through, I decreased the office supplies. I decreased equipment rentals and maintenance. That equipment rental maintenance line, that is for our admin software. So we are in a 7-year agreement with them, which saved us a lot of money over that 7 years. So that's a positive thing. Education, conferences, and seminars, that decreased a little bit. Again, last year, not much was used because of COVID. Materials and supplies, that's staying the same. That's what we run our checks off of. Financial consulting, that decreased. I actually am anticipating seeing a larger decrease next year. Last year, I moved all of our note sales to March, so we didn't roll them over for full years. We rolled them over just for 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, so that we can get them all done in March in one big sale, so we don't have to use the financial consulting as much. The O&E admin fee, that increased a little bit to the negative 2,500. We get an admin fee off of the police outside detail that goes towards that account. The memberships publications, that is staying the same. The only reason why I went over in 2020 was because I joined the National GFOA to get some more credits with COVID going on. I couldn't get classes through the regular GFOA. They didn't have them yet. So I did join the national one just to be able to get those credits. And the big increase is in the payroll system. We are looking at we are going to move towards an electronic timekeeping system. Right now, everything was done via paper. So we're going to move towards a system that a lot of the municipalities in the state of New Jersey are using. I've spoken to a bunch of CFOs and they've had really good experience with it. So that's what we're looking into. So we are going to see a little bit of an increase in that just for our timekeeping, which makes us more efficient overall. And then the next line for audit services, that's staying at the 45,000. Before anyone asks, the year to date, we always back charge. So for 2020's audit, we will be back charging to this 2020 line. So that's why you see nothing spent for 2020 year to date. I anticipate around the same amount for this upcoming year as well. So, and that's it for finance and audit. Any questions?
Hey, Danielle, the financial consulting, was that Phoenix?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, and just to let you know, for that financial consulting too, and I'll talk about this a little bit with our debt portion. I'm working right now with Phoenix, with Brian Morris, to go out for a bond sale this year on all of our outstanding bonds. It's about $15 million. It's not something that we ever anticipated. I know we spoke about that for the past few years about paying them off, but considering the interest rates right now, it's a no-brainer to go out for permanent bonds. If we can get an interest rate at 1.5% or even 2%, I mean, that's way less than what our existing bonds were on that we had in the past. So it's only going to save us money long term.
Yeah,
Okay.
Good to bank that money before 2023.
That's right. That's right.
2023, remember that number, it's coming.
Yeah.
Question, Janelle, when it comes to bonds, what's the associated cost with applying for a bond?
So it's actually incorporated into our bond ordinances. So it doesn't cost us additional funds to pay for that bond, if that makes sense. So in every bond ordinance that we pass something also called Section 20 costs. So what I do is I take, for example, I'm just going to put this out there, the tanker for the fire department. If I put $450,000 in for the tanker, I might add 5 or 10% to put into Section 20 costs. And then when we go out for bonds, it pays for itself. It's almost like, this is not the greatest thing, but it's almost like if you're going to refinance your home and you're not going to put those closing costs into it, you're just rolling it into the loan. That's essentially what we're doing. So we've already taken out that amount. We've already paid, our 5% or in the past couple of years, more than that down. So we're just rolling it into the total cost of the bond.
So typically you add 5%.
5-10%, it depends on what it is.
Okay.
If it's something that involves engineering, it's 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Danielle.
Any other questions? Okay.
You want to go to the next section? Donnell?
Yeah, administration.
All right. Chuck?
Okey-doke. All right, general administration, what page is that? Like I said, I don't have numbers in mind.
Page 15, it's like the very first one.
Okay. Salaries are staying the same. Essentially, most of the other things are the slight increase on the second one down for equipment rental. That covers all of the copiers that we have in the building, with the exception, I think, Donnell, you have a separate one, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Rental cost is going up.
Yeah, slight increase in the rental cost. Materials and supplies, we've increased that 1,800 only because we found that last year, and we don't know whether I think it's somewhat COVID related, that we need some extra supplies for that. I mean, we were able to get some things through FEMA that we needed to keep our place sanitized and keep masks available. Unfortunately, when we put a small box of masks that's usually only half full, sometimes we come in the morning and the half box is gone. So like I said, some things we've been able to get through donations and or through FEMA, but most of the stuff that we've had to do with just internally for employees with wipes, et cetera, those things have gone up for materials and supplies. Postage is always the same, as well as most of the other things in the next few categories till we get down to the manager's expenses. That dropped $300. Those are things attributed to things that I might need So we didn't, we decided to drop that a little bit. The technology expenses dropped 1,500. We're hoping that the money that we've paid for these, and again, we only got the first half of the new computers. The department heads got the first set because we wanted to get them with the cameras in the monitors. When we get the next set in probably June or July of this year for the rest of the municipal employees, they will not have cameras. They won't need them for Zoom meetings. So, but these have been great. We've all had them for about three plus weeks. And, we figure that our costs for a lot of the things that we need typically to make sure that everything's operating properly, we will not have to pay for with the newer equipment. See, everything essentially is the same till we get down to the town planner, and that's a jump from 5,000 to 10,000, and that's because Jessica's working on redevelopment plan. So that's the main reason for that additional sum of money. The other big jump on the next one, professional services, we're including in that the management company for the STRs, Granicus / home compliance or host compliance / Granicus. We included that cost in that account number for this coming year. Anybody have any questions about those?
No, I have none.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'm good.
Okay, next page, you want to flip it to mayor and council?
Got that number? We have that?
It was, that mine was the 14? Yeah.
16.
16, I'm sorry. Okay, salaries and wages staying the same. None of you are getting raises. No chuckle there? Okay.
We're smiling.
Smile, okay, good. All right. And again, these are numbers that you'll see with, they're either going down slightly or for the most part staying the same. The one drop is, again, with materials and supplies, we went down to from 1,800 to 1,000. Most of the other things are essentially staying the same. We jumped to one of the bigger expenses we've had over the last few years. Our legal services, engineering, and technology. Legal services, as we're well aware, have been costly. However, the amount of money since we are no longer involved, I think we went into the first part of 2020 with some expenses for the agreement with Mountain Creek and settling out that. But if you look at as we go down, our retainer for the township attorney, same. We've dropped the in-rem foreclosures because we're not having nearly as many foreclosures as we once did, which is obviously a very good thing, as we do not choose to take any more liens to the township. As you see, the next several lines essentially stay the same. When we get down to the labor attorney, we've dropped down 10,000. We only have the one contract left over to do. That was actually a 2020 contract, as Donnell mentioned before, for the UAW. Despite my requests at least 5 times going back to October, they have not really given me anything. I think it's going to be a fairly simple contract. If the council remembers, we did do several, I think there was a total of at least 3 sidebar agreements, maybe 4, for that union, in which we changed some things. We added actually 2 positions. We changed a little bit with the contract because the police dispatchers who were in that, we found that during the COVID time that they went to 12-hour shifts, which is what the police officers do, and they found that to be much better scheduled than they thought, and so now they're on it. So there's some minor adjustments with language that we have to put in the contract, but after that, I think it's just going to be coming to an agreement on the salaries. Again, the next several categories all remain the same. When we jump to the next section with engineering, we're dropping down $10,000 with the engineer. I know at times it seems like we have Corey doing this, that, and the other thing. However, in a lot of cases, he gets paid from things specific to the project. So for example, if he is doing a project that we've gotten state DOT grant money for, his portion is incorporated in that, or any other grant that he works off of. If we're doing something like the pump track, and that's going to come out of open space expenses, we can take that.
Put it out for a couple minutes.
Pardon me?
I think it was Tom. No, I'm mute.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So again, Corey, while it seems like dropping 10,000 for all he does is, again, he gets paid out of other lines. This is what we need for him to do with a lot of the basics that he stays on top of. You know, it could be something as simple as just having discussions with him. I know that yesterday we had a Zoom meeting with the Highlands Council in which we were discussing about what monies are available from them for us to do various things. And he was on that one to discuss, you know, because they do provide money for some engineering costs depending upon what they are. So he had questions that he was asking about that. So yeah, he's, as we have decided, I think Harry would agree, going back in the time that I've been here, he is one of the best choices that we've had in terms of having an outside vendor who stays on top of everything and does a lot of really good work for us and has an excellent reputation. Going down to technology, we do have a slight increase in the 2021 budget for where we need consultants. I know that in the past, we've had some infrastructure issues that we've had to change a little bit. For those of you who have tried to go on Wi-Fi here, in the past, it was really bad. Now it's not too bad. We want to actually increase, make that a little bit better. But one of the key things we had to do was the wiring for this building had to be all redone, and we need to follow up with some more of that to make sure that we have good connections downstairs all the way to the senior center, so that when we do open that up again, everything will function as well as it does up here at the present time. And again, we decided to drop the sub-account for the technology purchase of new equipment down $5,000. Any questions?
If I could, I just want to make a statement about the meeting your mayor attended and Chuck and I with the Highlands yesterday, just so the council and the public knows. And I didn't realize this either, and I know the mayor didn't either, but they consider us a model Highlands town.
Absolutely.
Doing, and I have to give a lot of credit to our planner and Corey. And I think both do a great job. But I think Corey's one of the finest engineers, not only that I've ever known, but I've had the pleasure to work with. And they were pointing out that some of the bigger projects that have been sitting on the back burners for this town for 20, 25 years, it's no guarantee we'll get the money, but we are eligible for monies to pay for the engineering. And that can be a big cost. That can be 10, 20% of any project. And they were offering that. And when we went through what our plans are for the town center, they were just smiling. I mean, the mayor and I were just like, we were smiling too, but they're like, this is what we want to hear. And the Highlands has been very good to us. They gave us, I forget the actual amounts. I think it was like 40,000, maybe more for the water deficit study. They've given us money for the economics study for the town center. So they have been providing the money, and it was almost like, okay, guys, apply for this because we like what we're hearing. So that will help with our engineering costs, and it's well worth it. So not only do we have these plans, We can put them in effect for the future. We can't just think about 2021. And of course, I'm always talking about 2023. What about into 2030, 2035? We need to lay this all out. So I just had to bring that up because it was a great meeting and we got a lot of compliments and it was very much appreciated.
Yeah, we sure did. We should. I was shocked when they said that we are a model a town for them. They like working with us, really do. Let me just add this too, that the combination of this mayor and this council working together is something that's noticed by a lot of the professionals that we hire. You might notice that our legal counsel, the salary is the same, the retainer is the same. And our engineer, the salary is down $10,000. And if you would talk to Jessica, our planner, these people literally like working for us. They, you know, they said they get beat up so much at many other municipalities, and beat up literally because the mayor and the council is just fighting all the time. They don't know which direction to go in and what to do. They literally like working for us. And I'm really so pleased at that. And that's just not in data boards that we get from them, but it's reflected in the fact that they'd rather take less aggravation and be much more professional and work for someone where they know where you're going, they understand that you're all on the same page, than to work for somebody for a few more dollars and they don't really know what they're doing. So it's been a real good thing. And I just want to compliment the council on this. And I thank you guys for it.
Thank you.
Can I go to commissions and committees?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, this one should be fairly simple. Everything's the same, except that we took the 4,500, I believe, that was with the HPC, and we have moved it around. The beautification committee, who I think everyone will agree has done a superb job with what they've done throughout the town over the last, well, at least the 5 years I've been here, but particularly the last 3. They've done a terrific job with a lot of the little accents they do, not just here at the municipal building, but elsewhere in town. Have you recently seen the banners that have gone up and everything? And we thought, since we had been asked by the beautification committee to see if we could find a little bit more for them, we allocated 2,500 of that 45 there. The other 2,000 is going to the new historic committee.
We haven't really talked about that yet because there are a lot of things on our plate. But one of the things that we said that at some point in time, we're going to create some kind of new historic committee. I'm in favor of something with 1-year appointments. It either could be appointments either totally by the council. I'm fine with that, or by the mayor, or by the mayor and council together. Either way, you know, there are people who indicated that they'd like to serve on such a committee. We'll see. One of the things that I've done is I've checked around with a lot of other towns to see how many have a historical preservation committee or some kind of committee, and what is it like. And I'm surprised that really only about 20 or 25% of the municipalities have such a committee. You know, I just wanted to get an idea of what their committees are like, what they really do, and what have you. So, but we'll be talking about that sometime later.
Yeah, Mayor, I believe it's important, and I think we passed in our discussions having a heritage committee strictly ad hoc in the future.
Yes.
To advise the council and the mayor of the historical significance of our township and to preserve it and make those suggestions to us.
Absolutely.
We could, you know, in a future meeting, let's get that up for discussion and stuff.
Okay. Who does insurance, shared services, and grants?
Now?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah,
That's
I can do
okay.
that.
Okay.
I have it's page like 35.
And that's what, insurance?
I thought you just said shared services and grants.
That's fine.
Unless you want to do insurance first because it's before them. It's your call.
Yeah, I can, let's do insurance.
And that's page what?
Just go in order. We'll go through the remaining ones.
We will
after,
have the
okay?
first page of the agenda done.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so it's page 24 and insurance. Okay, so, I mean, we're pretty much around the same we are for dental, just a small increase. Major medical, I did increase that a little bit, just based on, again, where people are with their premiums and stuff for this year. Group life insurance is staying the same. Vision plan, again, went up just a small bit based on who's taking the vision plans and whatnot. The prescriptions did go down. We did spend significantly less last year. There was a decrease in prescription plans with the state, so that has been helpful to us. Our employee contributions, I'm keeping the same. Again, for some new council people, employees pay their contributions for health insurance based on their salary and the premium amounts. So the higher your salary goes, the more you pay towards your premium. It can get significant when you make over certain dollar amounts, you're paying 35% of your premium. So people do pay significantly towards their health insurance now. And then we do have a line in there, group insurance health benefit. Those are for those individuals that opt to not take our health insurance. We do pay them percentage. It's a quarter of the savings that the township would have that we pay back to them. So that's on our health benefit line. Those are our health benefit waivers. Unemployment insurance, we put aside $10,000 a year. Go ahead. Did you have a question?
No, I was just coughing.
Okay. So unemployment insurance, we put aside $10,000 a year that goes into our unemployment insurance trust fund to help pay off any of those insurance claims through the year. Again, for some new council people, the township does not pay towards unemployment insurance the way other regular entities would. So essentially what happens is if somebody does go on unemployment, we pay that full amount towards that employee. It just makes sense that way. We do save a ton of money doing that. Our other insurance lines, those are our accident and health deductibles, our special insurance, that increased just a small amount. So I kept it as, as minimal of an increase as I could. For that, I think we're good at a $10,000 deductible range. We did have some higher amounts last year come in for a couple of issues that were unanticipated. I mean, let's pray, knock on wood, that does not happen again this year. And workers' comp insurance is staying at the 400. We're about right there for this year's billing. Any questions on insurance?
I have none.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions? No? Okay.
Okay, so we can move on to shared services and grants. That's page 35. And it's after the court. So our shared service agreements this year, we have Wantage Radio Communications. That's that $15,000 for, I believe it's the equipment, Chuck, correct? Is that
For
correct?
the antenna, it's the
Yes.
antenna on the tower.
Yes. Animal control, we should have 2 shared service agreements. So I'm anticipating those 2 at the 28,000 total. Financial administration, that's the one with the MUA. So even though it looks like there's an increase, if you look at the line below it, that administration line is a 0. So it is actually a decrease that we're seeing in the shared services for that. I did discuss that earlier. The DPW shared service agreement we no longer have. There, just to be clear, there will be, because it's probably going to come up, there is a shared service agreement for the DPW services that was passed by the MUA in January that that Marcy has for this upcoming meeting. That is only for emergencies, and that is outlined in that agreement. So right now, the MUA has 2 employees that work there. This would cover those MUA employees if anybody's out sick. If anyone's out with COVID, needs to be COVID tested. If there's emergencies, and like there's sewage running down the road and we might need more than 2 guys, the DPW is able to address those issues. So it's good to have those guys on staff. on call, I should say, if necessary. And then the shared service for the senior center, we are the nutrition site, one of the nutrition sites for the county. So the county does give us that $27,700 every year to go towards that. And that actually offsets our salaries and wages for our senior center. Any questions on the shared services? No? Okay. All right, moving along to grants. So the Clean Communities Grant, just to be clear, as you can see, it looks like we've anticipated it every year. What happens every year is the money comes in around June or July, and then we pass it's called a Chapter 159 resolution, which amends our budget for the amount that comes in. I do not know what's going to come in 2021, so when it does, we will do that Chapter 159 resolution, and it will be amending our budget. So you would then see in 2022's budget how much came in 2021. So that's why it's zero right now. I haven't heard that that's going down or decreasing significantly because of COVID. So let's hope it stays that way. The drive sober get pulled over, that's the year end. So that money we do have to anticipate. That's for when Chuck could probably speak better to this than I can, but the police officers are able to go out and do some year end traffic control and stops for the drive sober. DDEF funds, we anticipated all that we could last year, so I don't have any additional for this year. If that does change, obviously, again, we can do that Chapter 159. We got that one-time statewide insurance fund cybersecurity grant last year, so it was, again, a one-time thing. That's not a recurring amount, so we don't have that this year. The Municipal Alliance.
But we will be getting a grant, but I didn't have a letter as to the amount.
Okay. Okay, so if it comes in before the budget, we can put it in there. If not, no big deal. Again, when it comes in, we can do that Chapter 159.
Explain what DDEF means, Donnell.
It's drunk driving enforcement funds. So basically what happens is portions of the funds that are collected throughout the state are then given back to the municipalities that collect those funds from drunk driving. From drunk driving enforcement, from charges, from tickets, from violations, things like that. So that those funds go back to the township and they're able to use that for the purpose of drunk driving enforcement. So if that means putting guys on the road, doing more stops, they can do that. If it's for equipment or anything that would help in drunk driving enforcement, that's what they can use those funds for.
Okay.
So the next one is the Municipal Alliance Committee. That is a real significant decrease. That is due to COVID. They told us about that last summer. We had a conference, Michelle and I, with them about that, that grant was going to be significantly reduced. So that's down to the $5,500. The federal body armor, I don't know that dollar amount yet. So when I do, we can either do a Chapter 159 or I can put it into this budget sheet. Everything's running a little bit behind because of COVID. Usually I have those numbers by the end of 2020. The body armor for the state, this is actually in your temporary budget, the 25-25-63. We did receive those funds already, so we're just appropriating for it. And then another big decrease this year is the Safe and Secure grant that we get. So we usually, in the past, for years and years, we've gotten $60,000, and that's decreased because of COVID. So that's where we are with our grants. Any questions?
None here.
None here.
The next page, page 36, is utilities and SCUMA charges. Utilities, I decreased a little bit. I don't really know, especially now with what's going on with gas prices and utility prices. I didn't want to reduce that so much. I know that this year to date, again, was only the amount that we expended through December 31st. So we still had bills coming in January. So that number is a little bit higher than the 408 to account for some November and December billings. But I don't want to decrease it that much because, again, I don't know where energy prices are going to go. So I think we're safe at the 505. And SCUMA's bill increases every year. We had an increase in debt service again this year. The MUA on their budget side opted to use some of the funds from the rate stabilization funds that Sussex County holds for us. So they're using $50,000. So we did decrease the bill or the amount owed to SCUMA by that 50,000. So the amount again that we have to pay out is 50,000 less. So it would have been over 2 million. I mean, we're saving a little bit by doing that. But again, it's a very large bill. It's going to increase every year substantially. We talk about the 2023. Ultimately the township is on the hook for that billing. And we're doing things, and we've talked about it to try and reduce that bill, but
It's for the future.
yes.
Mhm.
Any
I think I need a
questions on
lesson on
that? Okay, we can move on to the statutory requirements and the Municipal Services Act. Social Security increased a little bit just based on what our expenditures are going to be, what I thought, salaries would be this year, because obviously Social Security is a calculation based off of what we pay. So that was just an increase there. Our pension contributions increased substantially this year. As you can see, the PFRS went up 10%. The PERS went at 5%. Those are state mandated dollar amounts. I was reading an article recently that was kind of interesting, just talking about it. Historically, the townships have funded their local retirement systems very well. It's really the state that hasn't done that. And this, anything that you might hear that says, oh, well, all these pension systems, the towns don't fund them well, that's not true. The town has historically sent in large amounts of money to help fund those. It's the state really that does it, that goes for years not paying towards the pensions.
Danelle, if I can add.
Yeah.
State since 1999 has not funded their own state pension fund. They're only like at 31%, or like the police and fire are probably in the 70s somewhere. Although Murphy in his budget this year, the governor, it's first time since I think 1999, fact check me, and I'm going by memory from reading the article, is that they're going to finally fund in full. So as they're doing this, they've decreased, and maybe Danelle, you can explain this. So we are mandated to pay these pension funds, and we have no problem with that. But then when they shortchange us, they mandate everything, and then they shortchange us.
Yeah. So basically what happens is they mandate these large increases, and then instead of saying, listen, we're forcing you to put this full amount in, we're going to move that full amount that we've increased, let's say 150, I'm just using a number, $150,000. Instead of saying, okay, that number is outside of your cap, they're forcing us to raise a portion of that inside of our cap. So in areas where, we're limited to that 2% cap for our operating expenses, they're saying, well, a portion of it's going to be in your operating expenses and you can't do anything about it. So it's unfortunate, and it is a very large stump this year.
And I'm a retired cop, and I find it so upsetting because it puts us in a position of raising taxes or cutting back on police. And I'm never going to support cutting back on our police department. I will never do that. And I've said to Danelle, is this the way the governor's forcing us to defund the police? Because I'm never going to support anything that defunds the police department. Never. They should fulfill their obligation to the state and stop all these funded mandates that they throw on the municipalities that we have to charge taxpayers, and we're all taxpayers here. So anyway, I'll get off my stone right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point, if they were to say again that it was outside of cap, I mean, it's still unfortunate, but at least it's outside of cap. To say you've got to make up for it in your budget and cut other places to account for those large increases, it's frustrating. The next one is our defined contribution retirement program. We call it DCRP. That's for our part-time people. So again, for new council people, the state pension system used to let everybody in. Everyone could be in PERS. That's no longer the case. So now we have different tiers based on when you were hired and when you were admitted into the pension system. And if you're part-time, you're no longer allowed to be in the pension system for obvious reasons. So you go right into the DCRP, and they also have a max cap. It's usually based on the Social Security amount, whatever the annual contribution is. You can't for PERS, you can't go above that. That goes into DCRP depending on when you've been hired. So that's $8,000. which is, it's a good amount. You know, it depends on how many hours we're looking at. Again, we had fewer hours last year with COVID and part-time positions. So any other questions about the statutory obligations? Okay. I'll move into the Municipal Services Act. So there's a large decrease in this. When I first came to Vernon in 2018, I came from a township that had the same budgeted amount for their Municipal Services Act, and it was in Bergen County. And they had significantly more, they weren't lake communities, they were condo associations, but some were, you know, private communities. And I thought that that was a little bit high. So I looked into it and I looked how the things were calculated. And I just, looking at how we calculated it, I contacted a number of CFOs throughout the state to see how they were calculating things, because I wasn't, you know, it didn't seem like it was very fair to the Vernon taxpayer. So based on what other towns are doing, I spoke with Josh. He sent me agreements, you know, that his firm has sent to other towns and he uses with other towns. And we created agreements for each one of the lake communities, or I should say private communities too, they don't all have lakes. And we just did a recalculation. So it's based on our actual expenses. It's based on our labor. That includes our straight time and our overtime. It's based on our actual equipment costs, not FEMA equipment rates, which are significantly inflated. You know, it should be what our actual costs are on our equipment, what the actual hours we spend on our equipment and what our actual costs are to the taxpayer. So based on that, and what I think that our reimbursements back to the communities would be, I estimated about 250. You know, I think that that's a very conservative number. So I think that that's a good number to keep moving forward, even with some large snowstorms like we've had this past year. And this number, this 2021 number, will be used for like this year's reimbursements from last year, if that makes any sense. We're always a year behind with those reimbursements. And something that I wanted to point out too, something that Vernon does that I don't know any other municipality that does do, is that Vernon agreed to pay for all this, basically provide all the salt and grit to the communities, which is a massive savings to those communities. I know we spoke with one of the members of one of the associations, and he was looking at like $25,000 a year they were spending on salt and grit, and now they don't spend that. So we are helping out those taxpayers that live in those communities because they don't have that additional expense by providing that salt and grit to them.
And we probably pay a lower price because we're going to a cooperative on it.
Yeah, we pay a significantly lower price, yes. Any questions on that?
Just Chuck, can you answer me, remind me, Whispering Woods, which development that would be?
Is that off of 638?
If that's Upper Plateau off of 638, the township has been plowing it. I was plowing it, but back then.
You have,
I think, Donnell, isn't that the gentleman that you were talking to yesterday?
No. Is it the second?
He's not Whispering Woods?
No, he's, let me get my spreadsheet.
Sorry, that one just doesn't click for me.
We paved the road 2 years ago. It was in atrocious shape. I think that's Whispering Woods.
We did have at least one additional one. I thought that was Whispering Woods.
White Oak. No, it's White Oak.
Oh, White Oak. You're right.
Yeah,
White Oak.
I'm just looking at my list right now. So, hold on. Where'd my spreadsheet just go? So that Whispering Woods is actually no longer active. These are the so some of these account numbers exist, but there's no, I don't have them on my associations. So the associations I have are Highland Lakes, Lake Panorama, Lake Barry, Lake Wallkill, Scenic Lakes, Lake Pochung, Stonehill, Hidden Valley, Black Creek, Village at Glenwood, Valley View, Baker Road, and White Oak. So yeah, that Whispering Woods is not.
Okay, thank you. When I saw that, I was thinking that it was the one off of 638, and I know we've plowed it for a very long time.
And I'm going to make note to actually delete that account number so it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, I don't believe they have an HOA up there anymore, or not a qualified private community.
Also along those lines, just to let you know, so those contracts, we've gotten 2 back. Those will be going towards to the council, obviously for approval for the mayor to sign the contracts with those associations as we get them in. And it just puts in writing, the law requires us to have a contract to reimburse them. And we don't have contracts on file. So we want to make sure that we're following the law.
Will those contracts have like a maximum on it?
No, the contracts are, they have a generic calculation and just to show people how the calculations are, but we're not doing annual contracts. It's the contract into perpetuity. So that amount changes every year based on what the actual labor expenditures are and our actual equipment expenditures.
Okay.
Right? You take the township, say for a mile, they have a difficulty factor, like the condos basically are 1.5 difficulty factor. And then you might have another lake community with a 1.3 difficulty factor and another one with 1.15. And then you would figure out what the township's actual cost is and not FEMA's cost. And Danelle, that was a great pickup that you made there. And then you time it and then we reimburse them.
Okay.
Based on that, because the roads, like the condos, they're very difficult to plow in there. So that's what the judge said in the law case. You know, he said, I think it sounds like a 1.5, but we did a study back in 2010, 2011 by Golden, and they actually came out with the difficulty factors. And I think it cost about $10,000, but that's what we were using was that engineering report.
Yeah, it's mileage, it's grade.
Right. It's all those. Right
All
there.
that adds up.
Yeah. And just to let you know, we include the labor. We also include our benefits costs too, just to be fair, because it's not just, you know, the per dollar an hour that it costs us to do all the plowing and all that other stuff. So it is the benefits costs for Social Security, Medicare, pension, medical, workman's comp, all that stuff. But just to give you a general idea, in 2020, we didn't have a lot of snow. So our cost per mile based on our labor costs, benefits, and equipment is only like $700 per mile. Compared to 2019, it was $2,500 because we had a lot of snow in 2019. So it can fluctuate, which is why we need to make sure we budget enough because I can't really, you know, tell you what the weather is going to be like from day to day. So it's a good thing to have like a roundabout number that you'd be safe with.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. The next one is the next page, which is 38 due to trusts. So this is completely new in our budget, and this is as a result of the short-term rental ordinance, the taxation ordinance. Based on what we brought in last year, which, oh my gosh, I had the ordinance out, now I don't. A certain percentage goes towards Maple Grange Fields, another one towards active recreation, maintenance of those active recreation things. And then another, I believe it's 1% goes towards reserve for expenditures just for open space for those passive recreation activities, which is already covered under open space. So we have that 58,000 that we took from the hotel occupancy tax. Because of the way the ordinance is worded, it doesn't go directly into these lines when the money comes in. We look at it after the fact at the end of the year. So that's why we have these due to trusts that will be in our budget moving forward.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
No, but I don't have it. Does anybody else?
No.
Can we have a brief recess? We've been going for, I'm looking now, 2.5 hours just for 2 minutes.
Yes,
Somebody wants
please.
to get Order or something.
Yes.
So I need a motion. I need a second, and I'll ask.
Motion to take recess.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none, nobody abstaining. Okay, 2-minute recess.
Sure.
Thereabouts. Just wait and see when Tony gets back.
Sorry, I'm back, but I'm driving again, so I'll just listen.
All right, we'll need a motion to come out of recess.
Motion to return from recess.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Seeing none? Okay, we're back on.
Okay, the next one is the second to last page, capital debt and the rut. So there is one change that I'm going to make here after speaking with the auditor. The auditor was here the past couple of weeks, going over annual financial statements. And for this, for the sewer improvements reserve, that's actually going to decrease to 50,000. We have an existing 150 sitting on our books that they recommended did not need to be canceled and then run through the budget. So what's going to happen is that 20,000 of 200,000 will reduce to 50,000. And then we had a line in revenues that was anticipated from capital fund balance, that will be zero. So it's just moving some money around just to comply with audit requirements, just to let you know. So when we do introduce a budget, those numbers will be changed. Again, we're on track with moving towards paying for things in cash. This is the first time where we've set up reserves through our budget line to start saving money for things that we do have some cash available and designated for specific departments. We are going out for our permanent financing this year on those $15 million in notes that are coming due in a couple of weeks. We're expecting to probably go out to permanent financing on those I think we're closing in July. So we will roll over this $15 million in notes coming due in March, and they'll come due July of this year. So I did have to increase our interest on bands, which is bond anticipation notes. I had to increase it a little bit from what we are statutorily required to provide, just because we will have that short-term rollover where we'll have to have the notes for a short period, a few months, and have to pay interest on that. Our payment of bond principal, that went up a little bit this year. That's standard. Payment of bond anticipation notes, that went up this year. That's again in accordance with how we have tried to pay off those notes. We are paying off one of the 2011 ordinances this year. We're rolling over that one again to be fully paid off next year, so we're not going to permanently finance that one. The interest on our bonds has decreased significantly thanks to going out for refunding bonds last year, so that has saved us a lot. Again, the interest on our bands, I probably only needed to budget about 120, but because of that short-term $15 million note we're going to roll over for a few months, I need to put a little bit extra in there. The capital lease payments, we did start the program with Dell. We didn't have that capital lease line in our budget last year, so we put it through a bond ordinance so we could go up, not a bond ordinance, excuse me, a capital ordinance, so we could go ahead and move forward on that for the first year, but we will have those lease payments coming up. I think June is what Chuck, you said, right? For the next round.
In July.
Yeah. The next one is the emergency authorization deferred charges for the 5-year reevaluation. So every year, for those who are new, the state says there are a few emergency authorizations that can be broken out over a period of time. A revaluation is one of those, tax maps are another. So our revaluation was around $1 million. We're allowed to break that out over 5 years and pay off a chunk of it as we go. So that deferred charge is the $200,000 this year. We'll have another $200,000 next year, and then we'll be done with that. As you can see, we finished the tax maps in 2019. That was the last time we had the tax maps. That was also a 5-year emergency charge. There are some that are 3 years, depending on what the emergency is. The interest on that emergency note for that additional $200,000 is only $2,500. We got really good interest rates last year, and I anticipate it again just on this short rollover that we have coming up. And then the reserve for uncollected taxes. So the reserve for uncollected taxes is an amount that we need to put into our budget to ensure that we have enough cash to meet all of our obligations. By doing this calculation, we get to the $3.1 million. It's obviously based on the revenue that we have. It's based on what the school budget, what I anticipate the school levy will be. It's based on what I anticipate the county levy will be. And then we get our reserve. So we need to make sure we have a $3 million reserve in order to ensure that we meet our obligations based on our current tax collection rate. So our collection rate this year, our audited number, now that they've reviewed it, is 96.01%. It is up from last year, so that's a positive, but it's still a very large number. It would be great to have an increase in collected taxes. That's probably what would help that number the best. Any
And if
questions?
I can add, those obligations are, no matter what, we are paying the school and the county tax.
Yes.
So, and I've mentioned it quite a few times in my comments over the years. It's a pet peeve of mine that the rest of us that pay have to pick up for those that don't pay. And then we have to finance this rut. And again, we're forced to raise it. And in my comments, I'll address that more to some of the people who don't like to pay, or organizations that don't like to pay their taxes or MUA fees.
Yeah, I was running some numbers earlier today. And that rut, I mean, if we were to have gotten another 0.5% in collected taxes, so let's say like $350,000, $375,000, that would have decreased our rut to like 2.6 million. So it makes a significant amount. You know, every small amount that we get in, it does significantly affect that line item. It's a very large line item in our budget. And it's really because people, you know, there are some organizations who don't pay.
And it's one of the reasons why I have not given up on the Legends situation. I am in some discussions. I've started some discussions, and you know, when I get something that I think is concrete enough to come to the council with, I will. But Legends is a big part of this. Legends affects us in more ways than one. If they don't pay their taxes and we take their property to tax sale, and those liens are not purchased, we own it. So we're slowly owning more and more of that organization by default. We just got to get it corrected. And the immediate effect on the budget is reflected in this rut. I'd also like to just to compliment Donnell and you, Mayor, former Mayor Shortway. You know, some of the things that you started when you were mayor, and Donnell started with you in terms of focusing on us being very conservative in terms of what we do. Donnell mentioned the payments under the Kelly bill, just little things like us paying too much, and a lot of other things that we're doing, and being able to look forward to paying as we go. A lot of those things really resulted in Moody's giving us a high bond rating, this AA3. And that made so much difference when we went out to refinance this year. I mean, significant difference. You know, Moody's said we're rated as a high quality and very low risk. So that's really important. And I've kind of continued that. But that's really important when it comes down to this budget. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that we've actually seen some strong financial support from our town largest taxpayer, and that's Mountain Creek. Not only have they paid their taxes and their sewer bills, but they paid them on time, and in most cases ahead of time. And last year, for example, Mountain Creek paid their sewer payments it was in July. They paid for the rest of the year. We had all that money to use. And simply based on some conversations that I've had with Joe Hessian from Mountain Creek, I wouldn't be surprised if by March, we didn't have all of this year's payments done. Just think, to have all that additional cash in hand. And, you know, nobody does anything by themselves. And it would be arrogant of me and not really truthful for me to say, well, geez, look what has happened since I have been mayor. But a lot of the foundations for a lot of these things were laid. I didn't negotiate the agreement with Joe Hession. The former mayor did. I didn't put in a lot of these procedures. The former mayor did, and I carried them on and actually working on implementing them a little better. But all of this makes a difference. Last year, we put in $1 million from our reserve into the budget to keep it down. This year, we put in only 600,000. That's continuing the trend that, again, Mayor Shortway, former Mayor Shortway, you have established. And when we look at this budget, the mere fact that we didn't put in $1 million this year, we did last year, and yet we're only having a budget that goes up approximately 2%. I wouldn't really wish that would be for everything. Unfortunately, the taxpayers are going to see a larger increase in that because they haven't gotten the county's budget or the school's budget. But ours was just 2%. So this is a very, very conservative budget, and we're able to do this not because the current administration is so smart, but because we've looked at things, we've paid attention to what others have done, and we've not been so arrogant not to give others credit and not to take up what others left off. And we're getting good questions from our council people. You guys are challenging us, and we welcome those challenges to make us do better. So, but I wanted just to say that about Donnell in terms of these bonds and these and these other kind of things that cost us so much, that if we can make the change, we can make it a little better.
Mayor, if I just added, first of all, thank you for the compliments, but I had just had a great team. I had an administration that supported me, I had a great legal team, and I had a governing body that the majority believed in what we were doing and supported it, whether it was passing the budgets or approving the Mountain Creek agreements, whether it was approving Donnell to come in and work for us. I mean, there really was a team effort from a lot of different points of our government. So that really is, there's a lot to go around for all the help. And it goes to Joe Hession's team too. I wouldn't expect anything less of Joe Hession's team since I've known most of them since they were in 6th or 7th grade. But Joe Hession is the quarterback over there that we want, and he has a great support team there. So we have a great relationship, but they're not Mountain Creek and Vernon. They are part of our community, and Joe and his team gets it, and they're fulfilling their obligations. And that I can only just say, I wish some of these other organizations would feel the same way, because we'd all be in a better shape right now. But really, when we're talking about just a 2% coming out of COVID, there's a lot of communities that are really going to be suffering. And I'm not advocating, hey, this is great, we get to raise taxes again. But it is what it is, and we are, and I know your administration is, and I know the council has a lot of hard decisions, and we've had, we discuss it here, they're doing a great job, but we just got to keep doing the best we're doing is serving our constituents and those taxpayers out there and all the people in this town. But thank you, Mayor.
I want to say something. You both keep saying 2%. I did calculations. It looks like it's 1.6, to be honest. Our budget. If you go from last year's, like, that's unbelievable. I think that's awesome, and good job to all of you.
I think it is 1 point something, but I have a tendency to round things up. But if it's 5 above, it goes to 2. If it's 4 below, it goes the other way. She's breaking up.
Yeah.
That number out. Yeah, it's pretty. Oh, the question? Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. You're breaking up, there, Tony, just so you know.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm driving again. When Donnell, you said that one line item, I don't know what was in it, but it was $1 million for tax assessment. Will that be? Are we doing that reassessment every year? Will that be a reoccurring cost or?
So, okay, yeah, so.
that wasn't tax, that wasn't for tax assessment. The $1 million was.
Yeah.
Explain
so,
it.
it's, okay, so the revaluation is for, like the revaluation of assessments in the town. So in order to do the one that we did in 2019, that finished like in 2020 for 2020, in order to do that, we needed $1 million to do that. So that was done. That's supposed to be done. It's mandated by, I think the counties force you to do it. But they basically say once every 10 years. The issue with that, as we all saw when we did our reval, is that when the reval was done prior to that, it was done at a terrible economic time. So some houses were not, I mean, there were large areas of the community that were not assessed properly because of that. And it went 10 years without, collecting the correct revenues, whether that's more revenue or less revenue through taxes for those properties. What we're doing now on the tax assessor's line and in the tax assessor's O&E line is an annual reassessment. So it costs us $100,000 a year, but essentially what happens is we get a revaluation of the town every single year. And it's costing us $100,000. It's not going to cost us $1 million to do every 10 years. And then we get, I think it's 20% is inspected every year. So after 5 years, we spend $500,000. We get the whole township inspected after 5 years, right? And we get a reassessment every year, as opposed to a reval where you're inspecting the whole town once every 10 years. So it keeps it a fair playing field. You want to make sure that people aren't being overcharged for taxes, and you want to make sure that people that maybe did a ton of like things to their house, that they're being charged correctly. So it keeps us level.
Let me also address another part of what I think Tony was asking about. Last year, Tony, we took $1 million out of our fund balance, which I called kind of like our rainy day fund, our savings account, and put that into the budget to try to offset the amount of tax dollars that we would have to pass or get from taxpayers. Over the past couple of years, former Mayor Shortway had put in about $600,000 out of that fund. But this year we went back to putting the $600,000 in, not the $1,000. And even without us putting in, not the million, even with us not putting in the million, our budget came in at what it did. That fund balance right now is $4.5 million. It's a safety fund that you really need to have. I'm not so, that's 16%, I believe, of our total budget. I think that we are kind of we're close to what good financial accounting say we should have. Am I correct, Donnell?
Yes.
Okay. Did we cover everything?
We did. Yeah, did anyone have any questions about this page? Because we were going to go into the capital plan.
I'm good. Anybody else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. We can move in to that, please.
All right, great. So the capital plan is that last page. We have our standard road improvement program, 700,000 for the main roads, 200 for the secondary, and then I did guide rail and drainage for 50. For the DPW, we have truck radio replacements at 68. One international, which we saved on the past few purchases through international for the single axles, I think, John, yes, thank you. It's on my list as an international, but it's a single axle for the big trucks. Usually that costs us around 180. So I would have 180 here, but the prior few years we've come under budget on those. So since we already have taken out the debt for it, I might as well just pay off of the existing amounts that we already have in cash. So we don't have to budget for that full 180. The plows and sanders is 20,000. The enterprise, I'm estimating about 75,000 in those vehicles. Additional build out on those, I have about 45,000, and that's because we have funds elsewhere for those build outs that were done in prior years. Additional equipment for vehicles is also for build out. It's just I separated it out because the amounts in green are coming out of the capital improvement fund line item that we have. The skid steer they've asked for $50,000. A new lift for the mechanics bays. They need a new lift because that one's not. I think he might have said it's not safe, but I need to double check that. The new Kubota for parks needs to be replaced. And then a new jib crane as well. So those are the estimates for those amounts.
What's the jib crane for?
The jib crane, hold on, let me get out my paperwork.
Don, can you help me?
I have it right here.
I don't know, but John might.
No, I had a couple of questions about the DPW too, so as well with the paperwork's coming out.
Lift, skid steer. Okay, so they're asking for a new 3-ton, 360-degree rotating jib crane with mounting hardware and a chain hoist. The crane will be mounted into the far side of the garage. The electric's already installed. It will aid in installation and removal of sanders, lifting and moving snow plows, and all heavy items in need of repair.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, because there is one on the old maintenance side of the garage. There's one there now, so they're putting an additional one in. That's what my question was going to be about the lift, whether we were adding another lift or just replacing one of the older lifts.
So the lift is the replacement because the one that's there is 25 years old and it's not passing its certifications, its annual certifications. So it does need to be replaced. And it actually, the cost here, it includes all the freight, the removal of the existing one and all that stuff. And then as far as the jib crane goes, it includes the concrete pad installation as well.
Yeah, because they have to put a foundation in for that. The Kubota for parks, is that a new four-wheeler? Is that another additional tractor?
So this is it's replacing the existing one. They have here, the machine cannot be used to its full potential and the snowplow needs replacing. They would use the old one and give it to the janitor for daily tasks driving between the building. The new one has heat, a full cab.
Hang on a second, they'll give it to the janitor for what?
I'm sorry?
The Kubota they'll give to who?
It says the janitor. Because she travels back and forth, she goes back and forth. I know that.
See, all the deliveries are made over at the DPW building for supplies, for her janitorial supplies and everything. So she would be bringing them over. She used to have a van. Unfortunately, that van bit the dust, and now they thought of doing it this way.
Okay.
Yeah, she does haul all of everything from the DPW municipal building, animal control, recycling center.
So
to the dumpsters and
this is a Kubota UTV, not a like a front end loader.
Correct.
Okay, that's because when you start talking Kubota, I'm looking at is it a dozer or now what it is? This is a UTV. Okay.
Yes.
Now, the other question I have is for the main and secondary roads, the maintenance is that oil and stone? Is how much of it is actual paving?
Paving is the main roads. Oil and stone are your secondary roads.
Okay.
You know, we were going to try a different formula with that, right, John?
No, I hadn't heard.
Yeah, they wanted to go to a larger stone because they felt the other was too light and getting brushed to the side too quickly. So it was almost, didn't really last like it should. So I think they were going up in the size of the stone, and they felt that in other municipalities where they've done it like that, it seems to last longer.
Well, I know I have asked, we were always asking before to look into what New York does. They do, when they do the reclamation, when they do the milling of the road, they actually mill it up and they have a truck with a hot oil injection, they call it, and they're putting down a base that's going to turn solid again. It just was like, what's the cost compared to what we're doing now? Because that to me would seem that it's going to last a lot longer. And it was one of those things that it never got looked at, but it really should be.
Well, I don't know about that. It depends on how far you're milling. I think, I don't have to tell you that most of the roads up here are very thin. It's not like, in some of the municipalities south of us where you might have a base of like 6 inches of asphalt. You have nothing like that up here. And, you know,
I know.
Corey has, yeah.
Oh, I know.
Any other questions about the roads of the DPW?
No.
Okay, the police, the only thing we have for them are their fleet. I do know that the build out on some of the vehicles has increased significantly in comparison to prior years. So that's why we've allotted a little bit more in here for this year. The parks, so they did request mow guards, especially to be used down at Veterans Park. And then the pathway at the flats needs to be taken care of. We were going to take care of it, I think, last year, but our bids came in way higher than what we were anticipating. So this takes care of that. Lighting at the snack bar field. This is something we discussed for the past few years about the lighting down at Veterans Park. That lighting is over 30 years old. It needs to be redone. Last year, we put funds aside so that we could handle the engineering and the electrical that needs to be done there to handle the new lighting. This would take care of new lighting just at Snack Bar Field. We broke it out over a few years because it's a lot to do them all at once. So based on Michelle's recommendation and knowing which fields get used the most, we felt that the Snack Bar Field was the best one to do first. So that's estimated around $250,000. Maple Grange football field, which I did send around some backup for that. The replacement of the artificial turf there. The good news about that field, it was going to be a lot more expensive, but we did pass that short-term rental ordinance last year. So we have that $42,000 that came from the hotel occupancy tax that would go towards this. We also have $20,000. Well, we have more than that in the field fees line in recreation, but I would recommend using $20,000 from that. And then we have money, we came under budget on our bond ordinance for the upper two replacements of the field. So we have about just over $100,000 left on that ordinance that we can use. So we would only be issuing debt of about $288,000. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to take a look at all the backup paperwork for the football fields. Last year, just, you know, so everyone's aware, obviously last year, the fields were not open for the entire season, but they were open for half of the season. The football field is used for more than just football. You have lacrosse, softball, football, soccer. There's a number of sports that are played on it. That being said, we are at the point where this would be the year to be replaced. I believe it's 15 years old now, that field. I could be wrong. I have to double check. But it's at that point. I don't want us to get to the point where we have to shut down a field again. And it would be after this year, we would have to shut down the field until it gets replaced. Just based on the numbers that we're looking at, the actual, the height of the rubber, the height of the actual field itself is off when you look at the numbers. So just so that you have all the information. Any questions? I mean, we can talk about this, but.
I would just like to add with the lighting of the field. I remember, I think it was 2010, possibly 2011, that we were proposing redoing the lighting down there. So it's been 10 years. And then I think it was in 2019, we actually had one of the, Chuck, if you remember, electrical boxes or something actually like kind of blew up and started a fire when the kids were down there. I mean, you said 30, it might be 40 years because I've been here about 30 and they were old then. So John, you would have better, or maybe Dr. Burrell, you would have a better memory, but they're old. And how much longer, I know it's a big price tag. How much longer do you want to kick it down, the can down the road?
Right.
It's a hazard. And I mean, they're getting a lot of use. I mean, you have the pathway, but baseballs, you know, they go, they're spring, they're summer, they're into the fall now. They need it for their safety. And I think it'll help that part of the recreation program too. I mean, horseshoes also, we get them back and running when COVID goes away, right? So it's been a project looked at for almost 10 years.
We ought to do it.
Yeah, I agree that the lighting should be done and the flats, Maple Grange too. You know, just looking at the numbers, you know, I think it needs to be done. I think it's time to get that done so we don't have to close it down.
In the bonding, not that you want to keep on going out for debt, but it's, the interest rates are low. I mean,
Yeah.
bands and how it goes. So if you wait, if we wait a year, 2 years, we don't know where the economy's going to go. Is it going to be 3 or 4% in place of 1.5, and then we're putting more debt on the future? So, and they're used so much. I mean, look at all the new
Yeah.
families coming in and our residents, and you got to think about the residents, giving them the amenities they're paying for.
Yeah, it's a beautiful park. We should just keep it up.
Okay. And just to let you know too, those improvements like the lighting at the field, it has a 20-year useful life. So we're looking at high number. That sounds kind of weird to you guys, I'm sure, but the 20-year useful life is important when we're looking at the life of our bonds, of the life of our debt. So that's a smart debt you're going to take out. 20 years, it's probably going to last more than 20 years. To break that out over a period of time for people to pay, that's a smart way to do debt. You know, how many times we've mentioned so many times, it's not smart to do like police cars for debt, right? Because they're good for maybe 4.5 years. You know, the bond law says it's 5 years, but you know, you're holding it together with like toothpicks and tape. So this is a good kind of debt,
Danelle, if someone says, just, I remember you having those numbers for the backfield, what would be the, 12 cents per person per family? Do you know what that is?
You just asked me that on the spot. I don't have that, but I can get it to you.
Like, no, just,
Yeah.
because you're going to get that question at a meeting.
Yeah.
So I always love it when it's like 5 cents, but.
Yeah. And it'll be significantly less. I mean, when you're looking at the football field, it's 288,000 because we have those other sources of revenue that we have. So, we're offsetting it.
Yep. Yeah. No, yeah. Should be done.
Yeah.
And the high school is also doing their field this year, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there any possibility of combining this to get a more, competitive price?
It's state contract.
Okay.
So, I mean, it could be, we'd have to go out to bid on something like that.
Just something.
And we can look into it. Yeah, we can look
Some-
into it. We've
something
talked
for-
about that in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we have emergency medical services. Glenwood Pochuck is replacing another ambulance. That's estimated at 195. The fire department has requested radio upgrades. The turnout gear for the 4 fire departments, we're at 30,000. The tanker this year, I actually, I don't know if Tom is still on, but he just texted me before and said that they're estimating, he went out to ask for a quote. Last year we spent 430, they've just upped it to 450. That doesn't make me happy, but
You have
such is
mask
the
over
cost of
mask.
business.
How'd you go in? You're saying here,
The SCBA packs, we put aside that 20,000. We're no longer doing, we were so far behind for years. And now we're up to date. So we're doing the 20,000 a year. We did put in here for a new fire prevention vehicle for Lou, for our fire marshal. That needs to be done. General equipment, we have 45,000 for them. There's a, here, Tom, is Tom, I know he's on. Tom, can you hear me? He's on.
Yes, I hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, Tom.
Tom, I don't know if you wanted to speak specifically about the equipment. I have, wait, I have some of it here. The specific equipment lines that you requested. And,
Well, some of the things are like like you had said, the turnout gear. It has a lifespan of 10 years. So no matter how used or not used it is, it has to be replaced after 10 years.
Right.
So that's kind of the same thing as the packs. We've been replacing a few sets every year so that we don't show up one day and tell you that we need 30 sets of turnout gear or 30 new packs. We try to keep the price down and still keep rotating them out so they're all up to date. The tanker, that was the price that we got from the vendor. That's the, I guess, the inflation price for the new year. As far as the equipment goes, we're in the process of standardizing all of our rescue tools, all the Jaws of Life, so that we're all using the same type. So that part of that is to do that. We're upgrading with some of our rope the rope is the same thing. It has a 10-year lifespan, so it has to be replaced.
And then we had a request for the ATV, the rescue ATV.
Yes, that's correct. It's pretty much the same reason. We we're going onto the trails trying to get the hikers and stuff out, and also at fires, it's helpful to bring equipment back and forth from the rigs. I mean, we all live in town. You see how some of these driveways are. We're lucky we get a truck down there. So now we're trying to bring bottles and hose back and forth. It would help to have a vehicle that we could use to do that with.
And that's it that I have for fire.
Well, let me just add for the council members and those in the public who may not know, but we're very fortunate to have Tom as one of our volunteers. He is a paid firefighter. Am I right, Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah. So his words come with a lot of credibility. Not that others don't, but it's really important to have his input.
Yeah, and if I could add, I'm happy to see, Mayor, you're keeping the 20,000 in for the SCBA's, because when I first came mayor, I think it was $700,000 to replace these. These are self-contained breathing apparatus, and we need to rotate them in and out so our firefighters have the best equipment. It saves lives. You can't be sending them in or even near the fire without the SCBA's. One question I have is, what did the fire departments decide on doing with cleaning their outfits? Did they ever buy the laundry, the washer we were talking about, or are they sending them out?
We're sending them out. I think we still have, we may have, I'll have to check with the now, we may have 1 year left on the contract that we had for gear cleaning.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's coming into its last year. And I think we have an option to renew if the company, if we can get that done, if the fire departments are satisfied with the service.
And with the tanker, are we going to trade this one in or auction it? And it's a pet peeve of mine when I see the McAfee ladder truck still out there. What are we going to do with the old ones? Or are we going to refit it and use it at the DPW? Do we have any plans for that?
I think that what we found is that there's not too much of a interest in trade-in anymore. So I think we're either going to retask it or perhaps, through the national bidding system on Municipal, where we have in the past gotten rid of equipment and vehicles, we would find out what the worth might be.
Yeah, anything will help, but I think the DPW a couple of years ago, because we've been looking at the tankers for, I think, at least 4 years now. I mean,
Yeah.
You really have to start, because we know we don't have fire hydrants, because we don't even have water in the town center on all the.
They're very interested in that, the DPW. I know they did mention that, will we get one of those? And obviously that is under consideration, sure.
The one from the Vernon Company 1 was taken out of service because of mechanical issues. I believe the DPW took that and is making whatever modifications they need to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Tom, I'm glad that we're getting the uniformity on like the jaws and everything. So every member of any volunteer fire department, you're at the same scene, you know how to work the jaws, because there's different manufacturers, there's different equipment. I mean, it only makes sense that everything's uniform, so every volunteer knows how to operate that equipment.
Yeah, right. And even if you pull up and let's say one of the pumps for whatever reason won't start, you can grab your tool and hook it to somebody else's pump and just keep working. So we're trying to make everything, like I said, like uniform like that.
Yeah, some people will think, oh, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. Then you forget about the cost when your house is the one on fire, or you're trapped in a car. So I think it's well worth it. Giving you guys, you do a great job in giving the volunteers the equipment they need.
And the system that we're going with, one of the reasons that we picked it, it comes with a lifetime warranty. So if you break a blade or a tool breaks, it's free repairs for life. So that cuts down a lot on the maintenance cost too.
Important. I guess the question comes up though, with the old ladder that we had, the McAfee ladder, has there any action plans on bidding that, taking it out to auction or getting some money back for it instead of just sitting there?
I'm sorry, I got a phone call. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, on the McAfee ladder that we have sitting over outside for the last 2 years, do we have any actions to getting rid of that or auctioning it off or something?
We actually have an offer for it now, but we're weighing that against perhaps putting it out on municipal bid, knowing that, perhaps we'd get a higher price. The offer has actually come from a resident
Oh, okay.
who would like to refurbish it and keep it as a, I guess, as a parade piece,
Maybe help with the holiday decorations.
perhaps.
Although Vernon
So-
does a great job, and I don't know if it was McAfee, whoever did it this year, it's always great they help us out.
Yeah, just.
We'll try to give you a little more information on that as, as we move forward here, but you're right, we need to do something with it. We were trying to utilize it as a piece to trade in with the tanker, figuring that would help there. No interest. We've had several other companies come and look at it. Didn't even get an offer from them. So I think we'll weigh against either selling it privately or putting it out on the auction as soon as possible.
Okay, because I hate seeing it sit outside there. It's killing me.
I agree.
About it.
Thank you.
Okay. The next lines we have can be discussed. We have the bike pump track. We're just putting in 75,000. Again, this is debt, so it's not, I don't have cash put aside for this other than the minimum down payment that we need. And then a band shell, I estimated at 130. This is some discussion that council and the mayor can have if, they see inclined at some point. The township properties line, I actually realized that I didn't fill in a total amount there, and I apologize for that. Oh no, I did. I put 50,000. Okay, sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. So 50,000 in there. That includes a generator for 30. It also includes, I did not put in here, ADA door. The ADA compliance doors downstairs are going to be a little bit more. Or I'm sorry, not downstairs. I think it's out front. Chuck would know which one because I put ADA doors. I didn't put where. Sorry. And then we have to do additional work at the DPW. Ed just notified me that we'll need to do the garage doors over there. So I'm actually gonna have to increase that improvements to township property up to 80. Again, these lines for debt are actually good lines. They have a very long useful life as compared to something like a police car. So anything that we do on township property that's a permanent fixture has a much longer useful life. So it's better for our bond ordinance to pay for those things in debt versus something else.
Do you know where that generator is going?
At the DPW.
Okay.
Yeah, it blew up on after the last storm when we needed it to kick on.
I know I got a call for some fire department lights to go.
I'm sure you did.
So that's it. So right now we're estimating a ban of 2.5 million. Obviously that can change depending on how much, we want to put in from capital improvement fund to offset those expenditures, or if any of these items are requested to be removed or increased or any of that. But that's our general capital plan. To let all of the new council people know, in the budget, we do have a 6-year capital plan. We are not tied to that capital plan. The items that are in our current year capital plan, we're also not tied to. The only things we are tied to are done through capital ordinances or a bond ordinance. So even though we pass a capital plan in our budget, we pass a capital budget in our 2021 budget, we actually are not tied to those numbers. So any sort of changes on this generic plan that we have right now can be made, obviously at the discretion of the mayor, because he's the one who directs me to make those changes. And that's it. Did anyone have any questions?
I guess there's got to be some explanation done on these two things, at the bicycle pump track and the band shell, because we don't have plans in place and things of that nature. I get a little shaky with not knowing where the plan is for all of this and where the monies are coming from for other things that we've talked about when it comes to recreation. So these are just vague numbers here and a little concerning.
So these are, again, something too, that would need to be discussed if that's what we want to move forward on. And, you know, if necessary too, you could always put them in a separate bond ordinance. That's not, you know, that's not out of the question here.
Okay.
Well, as Donnell said, this is just really planning purposes here. We are going to be getting relatively soon more specifics in terms of the bicycle pump track, you know, some design, things of that nature. As it relates to the band shell, that's not something that we've started looking at so much in detail, but we aren't necessarily tied to any of this. And I know that whenever I present anything like this to the council, there's going to be a lot of questions, and we've got to have the details and the information, and it should be, and it will be.
Yeah, those two numbers concerned me because they showed up and I'm going like, we haven't talked about band shells much.
No, we haven't.
Yeah. So I love the idea of both of the pump track and the band shell. Back a long time ago with the playground at the flats, people volunteered. Or can we still do stuff like that? Like say for the band shell, or can people volunteer? Could we like sell? Is that something we do? Or, and I'm not saying take the money out. It has nothing to do with that. I'm just curious about, like, I love both those ideas and I want them to work. And I think somebody brought up the point that some people in town volunteer to help with the pump track. Are we allowed to take help?
Help in what matter?
Yeah.
Like, could someone I'm throwing out a name. He hasn't said anything. I'm just like a Paul Mealy, you know, he's in construction. Say he wanted to help with the band shell. You know, if we bought the materials, could like a local carpenter help put it up?
Tony, we had people, remember, they volunteered even to clear the trail.
Yeah, that's what I'm
We
saying.
had them signed. We're self-insured, well, you know, through statewide. And you're speaking about the hand-to-hand park we had down in Veterans Memorial done. You know, the contractors came in, and I had spoken to Paul back in like 2017. It was actually Councilman Rizzuto who has championed this band shell probably from about 2013 and 14. And I
love the idea.
2016 budget, but nobody ever wanted to pull the trigger to get it done. Now, Councilman Rizzuto and I didn't agree where it should be going, but we agreed the arts are important, and I don't think they get their fair share of the tax dollars. I mean, especially with COVID. I mean, if you were at outside activities, it would have been great if you could have the high school up there or other people out there. And I know you're looking at it, what it costs, but again, it would be long term. And I grew up in a town, Ridgewood, who's had that band shell probably since 1952 or so. And it really became a focus of so many different activities, whether it's Battle of the Bands or art. But as far as I know, and we'd have to check with legal unless we know. And when I spoke to Paul, I was looking at a kit, and Paul said, and I'm not holding it to him, but he said, yeah, I can get some contractors together to help. And we're not looking, at least I wasn't, I don't know what everybody decides or opinion, anything elaborate. There's some place to put it in. You could have benches made of tree trunks or stones or sitting in the grass. You know, and you think about what West Point does with all their concerts every year. So I think that was it. I don't know. I don't know anything against it as long as you sign waivers. And it wouldn't be like the homeowner like myself handling those saws. It would be a contractor that does it for a living should they volunteer to do it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And we go to the one in Warwick. They have the summer series. It's just a small one, and it's nice. It's so nice.
And I think if you invest in yourself, businesses say, hey, look at this town, they're investing in themselves. Other people will do this too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to the Highlands. I'm sorry, Mayor, go ahead.
No, well, you know, again, I don't think sometimes we do enough what if in planning and just looking forward. And this is kind of like what we're really doing now. You know, the more immediate thing is to move forward on our trails. And once we get all of that done, then we'll go to the band shell and a couple other things. But the good questions. Thought about the fact that people have volunteered, And I know there's some legal considerations, but number one, we'll take every bit of money we can. But another factor though, too, is that when you give people an opportunity to participate, they're invested. They see that as their whatever might be. And to the extent that we can do that and still do things right and legal, we will do that, I'm sure. I'm sure the council will join with me in doing that.
You have to understand, Mayor, I agree with this. It's all I'm concerned with is the communication of a plan, a roadmap. You could say that where this vision is going is that many times things like this pop up, like all the frequently asked questions. How can we answer those? And it's the same thing we have right now with the bicycle pump track and the trail, is to get those pieces on paper, on a presentation, and explained so that many people can touch it, feel it, the conceptual drawings of the track I've talked about before. These are the types of things we've got to bring out so that we can get buy-in not only from this group, but from the public. So that's
Yeah, you're
where
right.
I'm at.
Well, and I know, Councilman Pisker, you are looking at and maybe even working on some of those particular things. And to the extent that I can move that up as a higher priority or help and assist in that, please do.
Well, I mean, when I get done with this, with the input from the rest of the group, you own it. I'm just going to share it with you because this has got to come from you, not me.
I understand.
Okay. But that's what we owe. We do owe our taxpayers that. We put this line item down for $200,000. We got to have a plan to spend it the right way.
Yes, because I mean, I love the fact that people want to volunteer to work on it like they did the hand-in-hand playground, but we have to face fact that once it's built, the maintenance, the preventative maintenance goes out the window. I mean, the flats, we used to do so much more work down on every year. We went down there in the spring, rolled all the grass, rolled all the fields, went and got an edge cutter for doing around for the infield on the, we do less and less. And basically that went to hell just because there was no preventive maintenance. There's nothing gets done in that regard. So if you're going to do a bandstand, which I'm not totally against, but when I look at half of the roads in this town that are falling apart the way they are, and we talk about raising taxes, even though it's a small, but you're still raising taxes. It's like some of the things that need to be done have to be done. If we were, flush, no MUA budget, anything like that, yes, I would be wholeheartedly for it. But it's just like for what we have to be smart for now because we're still in the pandemic, not coming out of it yet. And it's good to plan for it because there's always been, I mean, the fire departments have always given the town their 5-year plan. Usually goes out the window too because, money has to go here and has to go here. And it's just something that if we're going to do it, it's got to be something more maintenance free. It's just a fact. And I've ranted enough.
No, you have good points. Good.
Excellent points, really.
Yeah, very good points. Yeah.
But the key thing is that this is it says capital plan. Nothing happens until we talk in more detail about it and make some kind of decisions. And I know that this council won't allow us to move forward on anything without more thought and more planning in this.
Okay, should we move on?
Yes.
Yes.
Make a motion to open public comment.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody abstaining? Anybody of opposition? Seeing none? Hey, Marcy.
Marcy, you're muted.
Sorry, no hands, Council President.
Okay, seeing no one. Do we have a
Close.
motion to close public comment? Yes, who's the second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Seeing no one? Let's move on. I know it's not on the agenda as far as mayor comments, but I invite Mayor Burrell. Do you wish to make any comments at this time? Mayor, you're muted, sir.
His mouth is moving. He's
Thank you very much, but I kind of interspaced my comments all through. So thank you so very much.
You're welcome, Mayor. Okay, let's move on to council comments. Kelly's not here, so let me see. John?
Oh, I have a few.
Okay.
In regards to capital purchases and equipment purchases, I like when we have this new skid steer coming in, I hope that we do a demo on it, because I know in the past we haven't always done demos with equipment, and sometimes it bites us. It doesn't work like we think it will work. So I would really like to see the demo come in for that equipment. And I also like to see if any of the attachments that we have on the current one, if would be smart enough to buy the same vehicle that could use those attachments, so we don't have to start from square one on attachments. Like I know the current one we have has a little mini grinder on it for doing asphalt roads, things of that nature in that regard. I'd like to give a shout out to the Glenwood Pochuck ambulance. I see they had turned their old ambulance, instead of trying to sell it, they have turned it into a support vehicle for themselves, for the town, the fire departments, and that's what we need more of. There is a vehicle that's already been paid off, and the life expectancy it had as a rig that was transporting patients is done. But the life that it can still lead is just saving us money and providing a service that we really didn't have before. They did a tremendous job on it. They really have. And that goes into the 2 tankers. Now the 2 tankers, you're sure you could try to sell them, but there are vehicles that have already been paid off, whether the DPW is able to use one as a tanker for doing drain cleaning, whether they take the bodies and the pumps off to sell and send them out to have dump bodies put on, because I don't believe we have any more tandem trucks, and we're still have to haul in our supply of winter grits. So it's just a way of, you're going to spend some money to make them into dump trucks, but then you have them. You're saving money in the long run. And something else. I don't know what it was. Getting old. That's it. I just, like I always say, we have to be smarter the way we spend, because we're at the mercy of the Board of Ed. We're at the mercy of the county. So if there's a smart way, God help us, we really need to take it to do these things. I'll probably think of something later, but thank you.
Good insight. Well, if you do, just let me know, and I'll give you the floor again. Okay, let me see now. Who do we have next? Andrew, you want to go?
I was going to say ladies first. Let Tony go.
I have nothing. I'm okay. Thank you, though.
Okay, very good. My comments, when I looked at this budget, I dug through it line by line. I mean, we've done as much as we can. As I said in the beginning, and Mayor, I've said it in my comments, is that, yeah, I look for income as well. We've got to look for ratables, because right now we've got to raise another $1 million from 2020 to 2021 in taxes. And I know it's going to come from different areas, but as I've heard from Mr. Westenberger, hopefully we've got businesses coming in here to help this. We've got to continue that. And I'm going to close with this. It's called Andy's 5 Ps, and I like to share them. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And that's exactly what we have to do here, is what every one of these activities that we're working on, we've got to put the plan together, communicate the plan, and then get collaboration that we can execute. So this is a good start with the town council, with the budget. Your budget, Mayor, you've done everything you can. I'm always going to ask for more. And I would encourage every department to look at cost savings throughout the year and not spend everything you got, so that we can be responsible stewards of this town. That's my comment.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, I know how much work goes into these budgets, and I really think the administration has done a really great job at a very difficult time. I know I sent a lot of questions, pointed questions, probably drove you all nuts. But if I could just explain a little bit where I was coming from, this, so the public knows too. When we passed the vacant building ordinance, yes, it was going to be revenue driven for a while, but that will dry up as people, they sell their houses, the bank sells their houses and force people to fix them up, and families would move in. On my street, in my section, I think there's 10 houses. 3 of them were abandoned. 2 of them, because of that, they've sold. The families have moved in. They're nice homes again. But 3 doors up, I have one that huge willow tree came down on it maybe 5 years ago, crushed the garage. There's probably a 10-inch limb laying in front of the driveway for over a year. No one's been in it. The owner's up in Wantage. We can't track them down. So my little neighborhood here, people are investing in their homes, and we have to look at that. Thank God there's a lot of brush. So in the long run, it really was to clean up the neighborhoods, because people invest in their homes. They shouldn't have to look at that. So, and then we saw, I don't know how many, it's over what, $250,000 the money came in, even though we reduced the 3rd or 4th year payment. So when I looked at the STRs, the short-term rentals, I knew they were out there. They weren't being regulated. I knew the tax was going to be coming from the state. I looked at the hotel occupancy tax as revenue coming in from guests a lot of times to help support the amenities that everyone enjoys in this township. And one of the reasons I ran for council was to push that through, because it was a tough battle to get those STRs through. And I was looking at the revenue. You know, you can't always cut. Like Andrew, you were telling me, and you just said it. Where are you going to really cut here without diminishing services? So you need to look for other avenues of revenue. So we have that revenue coming in. And the points on the building department, they're so important because they can identify STRs out there that aren't compliant, that aren't registering. And also the safety aspect of the COs. They will find revenue where people made it, I don't know how far they take it, but it increased the value of their home, but everybody else is picking up. But when we start looking at the STRs and the buildings, why we need to enforce our own ordinances, if you don't pay your MUA fees, if you're hooked up, if you don't pay your taxes, you don't get permits, or we'll recall those permits because it's only fair. Let's look at the Black Creek condos and the Camp Monte LLCs. Approximately 23 to 28 townhouses they own in the Black Creek Sanctuary. The company is out of Brooklyn, New York. They owe the taxpayers in this town, any MUA, $208,000. And if you go on the websites, Airbnb, VRBO, and now they're starting their own platform, they're running STRs. We need to shut them down. Shut them down until you pay, period. That is it. Give them the notice of violation, follow the process, but we're going to shut you down. Because you see what the effect is on the rut, and everybody else, the little guys, right? We're talking about LLCs now, people that lost their jobs or are on fixed incomes. They're paying their county and their Board of Ed obligation. The people, we're paying it through the rut. When they're making a profit, they're sitting in Brooklyn, New York. It's not fair to the residents and the businesses like Mountain Creek. And yes, Minerals is paid up. I looked today on their taxes. It's not fair to everybody else who's paying. And like the newest one is Camp Sussex, and they call it Lake Glenwood 999. I added it today. It's just a hair under $50,000 they owe us. We need to be aggressive in give them the notice violation, send a letter, make a meeting, but we need to be aggressive in collecting these monies due, not just to the town. When we talk about due to the town, it's due to the taxpayers and those that use the sewers. This will make more revenue, reduce the rut, so we can better serve the people. I think I said enough. Thank you. It's been a long meeting. I think the administration, you've done a great job with the cards you've had to handle. And
Department heads as
I hope
well.
we made comments that.
Definitely.
I think, Donnell, you did a great job with the $200,000. We saw that line item. That explains a lot. So you guys have done it. I really think you're to be commended because I know how tough it is. So thank you. That being said.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Tony, second that. And again, I also say great job by everybody.
That being said, good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion? We have a motion, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Nobody's
That's it.
ever
I heard you.
opposed.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone. Good
Take
night.
care.